Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Screen Time Continuum. We are back after hiatus. I hope everybody had a lovely holiday. Very happy to be back with you guys, and we thank you very much for listening. I am Nick, and I am joined always by Keilyn. How you doing, man?
Blessed. Can't complain. How about yourself?
Oh, not too bad, man. Not too bad. I'm glad we're back in the swing of things, and I think we got something really fun in the works. So, yeah, I'm getting pretty pumped just to have this conversation. For those of you who don't know, we are going to be talking about season 1 of Game of Thrones. Oh, man. Right. So unless you've been living under a rock for the past basically 10 years, you probably know what Game of Thrones is, but there are a large contingency of people who have never watched the show. And I always find it really fun when people finally get into it, because then I have something to nerd out with them over. So Keilyn has never seen Game of Thrones, and this is his first time watching it. And he's just about finished with, he finished season 1 and he's working on season 2 right now. So we thought this would be a perfect sort of bring back into the swing of things, get us back into the flow of doing the podcast. What better way than to recant his experience seeing Game of Thrones season 1 for the first time, because we all wish we could go back to that moment. And since we can't, we can live vicariously through Keilyn. So without much further ado, thank you guys again for listening, and we hope that you enjoy. But Keilyn, I just want to bring it to you. So it's been Game of Thrones was finished about 2 years ago, I think. 2018 was the last season.
19? I thought it was 18.
Yeah, it could have been 18. Sure, okay. Yeah, maybe 2. Yeah, 2
I haven't gotten there yet, so don't quote me.
Right. Yeah. Right. But it's always funny to me, because I do have some friends who refuse to watch the show, just won't watch it because of the hype, because of everybody loves it so much that they want to be contrarians about it, which I understand. Like, sometimes it turns you off when everybody's like, dude, you got to watch this. It's going to be so good. You're going to love it. And you're like, no, you don't know me. Shut up. So I totally get that sentiment. But we had talked about kind of maybe doing something like this for Screen Time Continuum, in which we could revisit Game of Thrones through the eyes of somebody who's never seen it before, and that would be you, Keilyn. So just off the bat, I wanted to get your what you expected going in before you saw it, and then what you kind of got out of it after watching the first season.
Well, okay, so I want to be very clear to everyone listening, everyone watching. I was 1,000%, 10,000, 1,000,000% in that group of people who refused to watch it. And for me, it wasn't so much the hype. I've been disappointed way too often when there's a lot of hype behind the show, and then I go watch it and I end up falling asleep.
Right.
And I'm also not the kind of person to try to keep a schedule with a TV show. So just because it comes on at a certain time and I have to sit and watch, that turns me off a lot. Yeah. So I never could do it. I just didn't want it. And then I kind of just, during this whole pandemic and quarantine, the whole snowball effect of all of that, having, just even if it's an extra hour a day, right?
Yeah.
You start realizing you don't know what to do with that hour, because that hour was probably like a big chunk of your busyness. So once I got to the point where I was willing to watch it, what I expected was to not. I expected to watch it and be like, okay, I know enough people who have watched this entire series that watched it right on schedule.
Yeah.
And you guys still are in love with it. So yeah. That in itself was like, okay, I trust enough of the fans that I know. But if I'm being totally honest, I just kept thinking about Walking Dead over and over and over and over.
Right.
I remember how that went. And I was, how heartbroken was I then? I apologize, guys. So in reality, this is what I expected. I expected season 1 to be long and boring and very character building-esque, which actually it was. It was still very, it had a lot of character building in it, but I expected it to be novelesque.
Yeah. Kind of like soap opera
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I just expected to learn a lot about the situation and the history of everything. And I can say I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, that's great, man. I mean, look, I when I saw the first episode, I think it took me a couple times to watch it before I was like, okay, I want to see what happens next. I mean, like, you know, like it is.
Wait.
What?
You watched the first episode multiple times the first time?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It took me a little while to get
Nice.
into it. Like it took me a while to get into it, and I think I was like you. I didn't necessarily start watching the show until they were already into like season 5 or 6. So I had like 4 or 5 seasons to binge watch, and that's the way I kind of like to watch stuff too. Like I don't want to be an appointment viewer and have to like wait until, you know, Sunday at 9 o'clock or whatever in order to watch it. But yeah, it took me a little bit to get into it as well. But once I started going, once you kind of care about the characters, then you start to be like, okay, I don't mind this sort of like the more quiet, subdued, because in the subsequent seasons, and I'm not spoiling anything right here, and just so everybody knows, expect spoilers for this show. We're not going to talk about anything but season 1 right now, but if you haven't watched season 1 of Game of Thrones, maybe go watch it and then come back to this video and listen to what we have to say about it.
Well, hold on, wait.
Yeah.
Not even. This is this is a disclaimer from a first timer. I'm 10 years late. This is my first time. So if you're later than me, don't pause this to go watch it.
Right.
Listen to this and enjoy this, and you'll still enjoy it when you watch it, because
that is true.
I promise you that.
That is true. I mean, I'm sure there's things that you've already know, just because of, the fact that it was such a big show. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of quiet moments, and I was going to say in subsequent seasons, and this isn't spoiling anything, but there is more action and there's more things going on because they got a bigger budget, because, like we're able to spend more money. And so, like you get bigger set pieces and bigger, more grandiose sort of storytelling, which is great. But I think where Game of Thrones really shines is in those really intimate moments of people just talking to each other,
so excited, bro. There's more blood and gore.
Oh yeah. They don't let up on the blood and gore. They do let up on the sex a lot. So don't go into like, season 5 or 6 expecting all the sex that was in season 1.
I figure I got all the Moulin Rouge I'm gonna get out of it already.
Yeah. They usually kind of do that with HBO movies or series as well. They give you a lot of sex in the first season and then they kind of dial it back. But that's not necessarily a big deal for me, so I don't mind. But so you finish season 1. I'm just gonna start from the first episode, right? And the first episode, you kind of get an introductory to all of the characters. You get the introductory first to the White Walkers, right?
Part, yeah. Oh man. So wait, let me be very clear. I didn't get it. So episode 2 was kind of like my episode 1. Because I watched episode 1 on my mobile device while I was cooking with company over.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes, this is COVID. There was only one person over, but that's not the point. Just when those come. But so I was watching it, but I didn't get the same effect watching it on my mobile device that I got when I put it on my television screen. So I watched episode 2, and then I watched up to about episode 5 or 6, and then I remembered, wait, something's missing. I didn't see something in episode because I missed episode 1. So then I went back and I watched episode 1 on the big screen, and I was plastered.
Right. Yeah. These really are. I mean, it really is. Each episode is really kind of a movie, and so yeah, it does help to have it on a bigger screen just so you can kind of get all the details and stuff like that. Now I don't know if we can go episode by episode, but I was thinking we could go characters. So we could talk about the main characters in this season and kind of where their journey took them. So which character would you like to start with?
Ooh, I like that. So let's start with we're way at the beginning. You know what? Let's start with Theon. I think he's an easy piece to kind of move out the way, but entertaining enough to start with.
Right.
And so my take, what I liked about Theon, what I thought was cool. So Theon is the best friend. Well, before he becomes the best friend, he is technically the servant boy.
He's the
to
ward.
The Stark family. Yeah, the ward to the Stark family. He is Theon Greyjoy. His family is basically subsidiary at this point to the Stark family because of their position in the war.
Yes.
And he was given to the Stark family, to Ned Stark, to Rhays, kind of like as a peace offering, like, hey, you take my boy and you leave the rest of us be. Right. But at that point, he had already lost 2 sons. So it was just Theon and his sister left, and Theon is the one who went. So so Theon also is at that point though raised kind of as one of Ned's kids. So and you guys will find, we'll get to Ned in a moment. But so as he's raised as Ned's kid, he's also Rob's best friend. Rob is Ned's son, Robert Stark, Ned Stark. We'll get to the Stark family, right? He is the oldest son, and I promise you guys, when we cover the Stark family, you'll understand why that's not the first place we'll go. Well, that's a big chunk of this.
Yeah, that's a huge chunk.
And so Theon is just kind of really headstrong. He thinks with his dick. If we're let's just get blunt straight to it.
Yes, he does.
And for anyone who doesn't like that word, I'm sorry. There is no other way to explain. He thinks with his dick. Like he's in battle, and the only thing he's thinking about is, after the battle, can you live?
Yeah. No, he's very cockstrong and headsure. And I think what's interesting about his character is he's kind of like this. He almost has this air about him of like, he thinks he's like, royalty as well, like the Starks. And I think there was this really good scene where the wildlings attack Bran, and they bring back that wildling woman, and Theon is like really mistreating her. Right. And the maester comes in and says, this woman is our prisoner, or our guest, and Theon's like, no, she's our prisoner. And the maester is like, well, are those two mutually exclusive in your experience? Right. And I thought that was kind of a cool scene, because he technically is a prisoner of the Starks, but he was brought into the family as sort of like, an adoptive son. Well,
I wouldn't even say that. And I guess eventually we'll probably get to Ned a little sooner than we want to, because I realize he's involved in everyone's story.
Right.
He's fortunate enough to be raised by someone who, yes, he is a captive of, but they have respect and honor.
Yeah, exactly.
That is the fortune of his life. And
yeah, he could be shoveling horse shit out of the stables.
You know what I mean?
But he's not.
And he's not. Instead, he is allowed to basically roam as one of his children. Basically, and mostly what I believe that was because of is he came into their possession, so to speak, as an 8-year-old child.
Yeah, he was a kid.
I don't care if you have any respect for yourself, you're not going to treat an 8-year-old child like that. And by the time that 8-year-old child is old enough to do the work that you would have got any other underling to do, you have love for this person. You literally just raised this child.
Unless you're Catelyn Stark.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
and if we're being honest, so I guess from there we'll go straight to Jon Snow then. And then from Jon to Catelyn.
Right.
And so, excuse me.
Well, let's just say also that Theon doesn't really have a lot of big story things going on in the first season. So it's quite easy for us to kind of gloss over much of his character in the first season, because he's not really doing a whole lot. He's in the background when Rob starts to declare his war. He's like there to help.
He's not even sure if he wants to push behind him.
Right, exactly. So he's kind of just like, he's an ancillary character right now. He'll have more scenes in the future, but it's not that much in season 1. So,
there's definitely, and you can tell from the few interactions he has that there is more to his story, and it's a little, But what I thought was interesting and what made me pay a lot more attention to Theon, and why I wanted to start with Theon, I should have mentioned this, was for someone who is not honest, like of the family and raised of his family, living in the castle, in his own castle, he seems to have the most interactions with the ladies of the night during season 1.
Oh
outside of the
Tyrion.
Lords.
Right.
Tyrion. Let's just get straight, like just Tyrion.
Yeah, and it's because he's kind of an unsure, insecure boy still, and he's, like, he's not trying to woo women. He's just kind of trying to have sex and pay prostitutes.
So he can talk about it.
Yeah.
Oh, I had her. No, you paid for her. That's not the same.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and well, and man, I really, really wish that you've seen all of it, because I'm not going to say anything. All I will say is Theon has an incredible story arc throughout the series. So I'll leave it at that. You're going to be
heard it here first.
We're going to be talking about him in the future for sure.
All right, cool deal. So with Jon Snow, the bastard. Jon Snow the bastard. I would like to know, what do you think of Jon Snow the bastard?
Me?
Season 1. Oh, okay, let me say it.
Season 1.
Let me say it this way.
I know.
What do you
it's hard
think
to parse
of the
it
beginning? Out. What do you think of the beginning of Jon Snow the bastard? And do you think he deserves answers on his origin?
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it in the framework of season 1, since I've seen the whole series and you haven't. But I want to make sure that I'm looking at this at the same like structure that you are. So, I would say that the sort of like ambiguousness of who his mother is was kind of like, and of course him being a bastard, and everybody reminds him that he's a bastard everywhere he goes. I think that that's kind of like setting him up for the having to overcome that. So he has that conversation with Tyrion when they come to Winterfell, right?
Right.
And Jon Snow isn't allowed in the hall during the party because he's he's a shame to his family, or he dishonors, Ned Stark because he's a bastard child.
We're going to talk about Cat in a minute. Stop pushing.
I know. But he has that conversation outside in the courtyard with Tyrion, and Tyrion makes that really good point of saying, like, you need to wear your weaknesses as armor and they'll never be able to use them to hurt you.
Right.
Like, so he's, calling Jon Snow a bastard over and over, and Jon gets really pissy about it. But he's like, look, I don't get mad when people call me an imp or a dwarf.
Right.
Like, you got to own it, And so I think that sort of like was the start of him having to like come to terms with the fact that, yes, he's a bastard. Yes, he doesn't know who his mother is. He has a complicated familial, relationship. But that doesn't mean that he can't make something of himself.
Right.
And I think that that's kind of one of the cool story plots about Jon, is like, he's on the hero's path. He's on the hero's journey. Like, he gets ejected from his home. He gets to go to Castle Black to be a watcher on the wall.
Right.
And he's going to continue along that path and kind of try to find himself, which, I think is really cool. Obviously, Jon Snow being one of the bigger characters in the series, I won't go too far into what he gets into in later seasons.
I'm well aware that Jon Snow is by far probably one of the most important characters.
Yeah.
So what I liked about Jon, and I thought it was interesting how his lack of understanding and lack of assuredness in himself was relaying to other people as a sense of arrogance. But he was fighting himself internally, and it was showing externally in a physical nature that literally had people feeling like, oh, he thinks he's better than us. And then it's like,
right.
Dude hates himself.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this dude is beating himself up inside.
Yeah. You're talking about like when he gets to he gets to the wall and he's like beating all of the people, and everybody's like, I like that scene too, because Tyrion comes to him and he's like, do you think, so-and-so was able to be trained with a master of arms like you were? And so he kind of puts that into perspective. How
good his life was.
Yeah, exactly. Like, a lot of these people that were, at the wall are not the noble people that he's used to,
Right.
And I think it's really, really kind of screwed up that gets to the wall and he doesn't realize that it's all just like basically like, criminals and rapists and stuff. Like,
you were kind of told, the people who are nobodies come here already. You got to figure out who you are before you get here. And I think, but that's why that, like you said, that's why that was such good information for him. But just having that And then even once he got there, and the reason I went this direction is because that's how he had to reflect on it, was once he got to the wall, now he's reflecting. So we'll go back to, you know, dealing with his mom, or excuse me, Catelyn, dealing with people knowing he's a bastard, and the fact that he was known as he's known across the kingdom, all the kingdoms, as the bastard. Jon Snow, oh, the bastard. Like,
yeah.
Ned
Stark's
famous?
bastard.
Like,
yeah,
right.
I
Ned
mean,
Stark's bastard.
Yep.
And so I thought it was almost something you could appreciate from our side, maybe not from his side as a character, but from our side, something that could be appreciated for him to get somewhere and realize, no, you're not the bottom of the barrel. In fact, in this group, you are the top. You are the prime rib, sir.
Yeah, that's why they call him Lord Snow.
Right.
Because they're kind of making fun of the fact that he's a highborn, you know, even though he's a bastard, he's still born into a high family.
Exactly. You lived in the castle, didn't you?
Right.
And so I think that's where we look at how he handled Catelyn in general, like how her disposition towards him, which we'll get to in a moment, but her disposition towards him and everything else. You saw he led his life as if he was invisible in his own household.
Oh, yeah.
You know? He was almost afraid to make eye contact with her.
Oh, yeah. He wouldn't do that. And he certainly wouldn't, you know, he barely called Ned father. Yeah. Like, he would call him Lord Stark or something like that most of the time. Yeah.
And I think those kind of things jump out. And so something else that Jon did, and this is back to like the second, third scene of the series when we get into it. So after the White Walker show, and I'll go from the beginning of the show to the moment I'm getting to with Jon Snow. And so, you know, when we get to the very beginning, you have the White Walkers and that whole ambush situation that they set up north of the wall. And then the deserter, after, you know, he sees his boy's head chopped off. Yeah. Just the way the assassin, like, to me, that showed me immediately the White Walkers are assassins.
Yeah. They're a big problem.
Right. Yeah. They are the equivalent of the Dothraki times 10.
Right.
Because they're mystical creatures.
Right. Well, and fun fact, I don't know if you picked up the Easter egg about that. So there's a scene in the Essos, you know, storyline with Daenerys where Jorah Mormont talks about how the Dothraki believe that this pale grass will take over the earth and that it will suffocate all other grass.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and so they talk about this grass that's white as snow and that's going to cover the earth and suffocate everything else and all life on earth. And that's kind of a nod at the White Walkers. So that's kind of a cool Easter egg because it's like a different religion that believes the same thing, but they think it's a grass and not these like walking zombies, you know? Yeah.
Oh, gosh. And they rise from because they are.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, White Walkers is a character we got to add. I know we got to talk about them a little.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So once that happens, and then you have the guy that they let survive. Now, the first thing I thought there was, they sent, hey, let them know we back.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, let them know we're coming.
Let them know we back. Yeah. Unfortunately, we're thousands of years later, which, if I'm being honest, I'll say this now. I don't think we're thousands of years later. I think we're just long enough later to where we're maybe 2 or 3 generations removed, and the lie spread that fast because it had to spread in order for the sanity to return to what people thought needed to happen.
Right.
You know, after the Mad King, basically. So we may not even be a full 500 years removed from this, 200 years removed from this. You know. I think this was like right before the Mad King, all that went bad. And as the Mad King is going out is when everything starts to re-blossom. So something that happened with him, I believe. And I don't know. I feel like he was mad because they say something with the dragons, but we'll get there too, because that's not a lie.
Yeah, right.
Deserter. I remember where I'm at. So, you know, they send the guy back, the messenger, and he's labeled a deserter. And he already knew that's what he was going to be labeled as because the other guy let him know the same thing. Like, you know, you go back without proof,
they're going to kill you.
That's what it is. So he goes back. He's considered a deserter. He's captured. And when Bran has to come with everyone, and all the boys go with Ned to
behead him.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I was going to say decapitate, but I
Yeah,
guess
that too.
But
Yeah.
yeah, to behead him, and which is his execution. They're not beheading him for fun. They're not beheading him just because, oh, we're just gonna, just go tip this guy over. Like, no, this is the order that must happen and must come because he is labeled a deserter by nature of no longer being on his post on the other side of the wall.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the crazy thing. He's labeled a deserter where it's like your story doesn't matter because you're not where you're supposed to be. So that makes you a deserter.
And that's the first illustration of, and we'll probably talk about this in a little bit, but it's the first illustration of the fault in Ned's honor.
Correct. That is exactly what I saw.
He does not waver from his code of ethics or honor, and that becomes an issue for him.
Right. And I believe you look at his face even when he had to do it, and I think he believed him.
Oh, I'm sure he
100% believed him.
Yeah.
But he had to do his job, and his job was he's a deserter.
Yep.
At that point, so this gets us back to Jon Snow, as I said. I appreciated that moment of him taking that step forward, nudging Bran, don't look away, father or no.
Yeah.
Because Rob wasn't going to do it. Rob wasn't paying Bran any attention. He was stuck in Rob mode. I'm learning from my father. I am the astute oldest son. I am the next in line. I am the sire, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure.
But Jon Snow, because of what, again, when he got to the wall, he was able to reflect. Because of the way he was treated and the way he was raised, being a bastard, he is so cognizant of everything going on. He knows how everyone feels. He knows what everyone's watching. And he's not even aware that that's something he's doing. It's normal for him.
Right. Yeah.
It's absolutely like he had to watch his own back in his own household from the woman that's supposed to be called his mother. So, that is his nature. And I thought that was a beautiful moment because it told me no matter what no matter what the mom thought, he was a brother. He was still looked at as a sibling by the siblings.
Oh, yeah. He definitely had a very good relationship with the siblings, for sure.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I said all of that to get to that moment and to say that, because that was the symbol to me, which was what really kind of our introduction to Jon Snow in reality, right? That was the most symbolic moment until a little later at the wall.
And so then he's basically he decides to join the Knights Guard to be with his uncle Benjen, which is Ned Stark's brother.
Right.
And he thinks that this is going to be some sort of noble cause that he's going to be a part of, and he's going to be a part of the elites. And
he thinks it's Greenpeace or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's going to go and just be this knight that saves the world. When he finds out that basically the wall is somewhere where they send prisoners, and the worst of the prisoners that they can't really execute, but they just send you to service for the rest of your life.
Right.
And it's the wall is 800 feet tall, and it's
800 feet. That's all.
Yeah. I think they say 700 to 800 feet, I believe.
And what's crazy is I legitimately went back through, and I probably could have Googled it. I didn't think about this. But I legitimately was like scanning through some episodes like around the wall. Like, is there any point they talk about how big the wall is? And I never found it.
Oh, I don't think that they say it off the bat, but it's 700 to 800 feet for sure.
It's pretty small. Well, in that time, that's large, but
yeah. I mean, and it's like, how do you even build something like that? So, I
have a theory if we want to discuss that now.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So, of course, I have a theory as I want to drink water. My theory on the way the wall was built is the dragons were still around when the wall was built. Now, with the thought of dragons, a conversation had at the wall where Sam jokes about, we'll get to who Sam is later, guys, where Sam jokes about wanting to be a wizard. And it was something else that was said, and it made me think of magic.
Oh, yeah.
I just immediately was like, that's coming.
Right.
That's coming soon. So I'm assuming all of those things were in play at that time. And although the White Walkers, I don't think ever were I I would think that their ice, there were larger ice buildings and things of that nature that they had, like castles and things. When they were broken down, these things were picked up and dragged and moved around by the dragons, because the dragons were serving the Targaryens.
Mm.
And you could fuse it by melting them because it's ice and they breathe fire.
Yeah.
The wall out of the shards.
Right. Well, I mean, I won't say anything because I know the answer. So
there's an answer.
Sort of an answer. I mean, yeah, it's pretty close,
Okay.
But I can't say anything further because I don't want to ruin it for you. This is going to be a lot of the podcast is going to be like, I can neither confirm nor deny what you're speculating here.
I plead the fifth.
Yeah.
I plead the fifth, the podcast.
Yes. Yeah. So Jon kind of makes his way into the Night's Watch, and he wanted to be a ranger, which is somebody who goes in north of the wall to scout and kind of defend against the wildlings, who are these free people that live north of the wall. But he isn't promoted to a ranger. He's actually promoted to a steward, and a steward is somebody who kind of acts like a squire, and he's basically the steward for the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, who is the head of the Night's Watch.
Lord Commander. Lord Commander Mormont?
Mormont, yeah. Uh-huh.
Right.
Which is Jorah Mormont's father.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I didn't put that together until I was doing these notes, and I was like, whoa, wait.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
That's his dad. Yeah.
And then I remember he told the story of his son as well.
Right. Yep. Totally. So he gets kind of taken under the wing by the Lord Commander, and first Jon is kind of upset about that, but then he's realizing that it's for a reason, because he's trying to train you to be a leader in the future. So the Lord Commander takes like a liking to Jon and basically wants to train him to be the new Lord Commander when his time comes.
Correct. Now the guy who so we know when Jon Snow first got there was one guy who clearly just didn't like him.
Yes.
And I don't know if it's because he's a bastard or just because he didn't like the arrogance, whatever. He's just a teacher, right?
Oh God, what is his name? Man, I totally know who you're talking about. And I was just,
same page here.
He's the worst. So he's basically the second in command.
Right.
And he's kind of like the head ranger, sort of. Well, not necessarily. He isn't there yet, but he's kind of like the trainer for the Night's Watch, and he's just a big jerk.
Okay.
Yeah. He hates Jon, and obviously he's got a chip on his shoulder because he's in the Night's Watch. So
I mean, and I figure, so what I was thinking at first, it took me a moment because I never caught his name either. So I was able to like grab his last name, like thinking maybe he's a Lannister or something, right?
No, he's not a Lannister. He's not necessarily, I don't think he's tied to any of the houses that you would know of, but I forget, honestly, I forget his freaking name, but somebody in the comments will let us know, I'm sure.
Like, you guys, how could you forget?
Which is funny because like I remember most of all the names, but it's obviously like the one that I didn't expect to have to bring up. But yeah. So
well, I was very curious because he clearly had the other guy who was his number one student. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so it made me curious about that, but I'm not going to ask anymore because they both kind of disappeared.
Don't ask. Yeah, don't ask any farther because I can't. As I said, I can neither confirm nor deny.
Yeah, I know that goes way further. I put a little bit of that together already, but
for sure. But then, so we find out that a White Walker has infiltrated the wall and tries to attack the Lord Commander, and Jon Snow with his direwolf ghost.
And I apologize. Are they considered White Walkers when they are reanimated corpse? Or
so that's a good question. So when they're reanimated like that, they're technically called Whites, and the White Walkers are the ones that you saw at the beginning, the ones with the blue glowing eyes and like the icy sort of like body. Right. Yeah. So those are the White Walkers.
Too, for the record.
Yes, and so the White Walkers' power is that they can animate corpses. They're basically, necromancers. So those animated corpses, whites.
Smooth.
So so a white comes into the wall, and he's basically trying to attack the Lord Commander, and Jon Snow saves the Lord Commander. And this is how he gets the legendary Longclaw sword as a thank you from the Lord Commander, which happens to be Valyrian steel, which will come up many times.
And that's what I was going to get to right away is you said it's called the Longclaw sword?
It's long. Yeah, its name is Longclaw.
Longclaw. So Valyrian steel, I am assuming Valyrian steel is the only thing that can pierce dragon hide.
I don't. Yeah, I guess you could say that. I think that that's probably as accurate as you can. So Valyrian steel is made from dragonfire. I can say that without it being a spoiler. So
I mean, they've already kind of said that part. They said it is forged
with dragonfire.
Yeah. I'm curious, like, okay, but does that mean that it could kill a dragon?
I think so.
And it seems like it's rare as well. Yeah.
Yes, it is very rare. It was made a lot back in the day, but they're exceedingly less Valyrian steel swords. Another Valyrian steel sword is Ned Stark's sword.
Right.
He calls it Ice, I think. And that's a Valyrian steel sword.
And I believe after he is beheaded, who takes his sword? Somebody, we don't know whom. Hey, buddy.
Hey, Mike, how you doing, man? Good to hear from you. Well, I knew you were going to tune in for this.
I'm trying to think. With the Valyrian steel, there was something with Ned's sword.
Yes,
I am curious to know who has his sword. I almost am sure Joffrey does not.
Not yet. Tywin does. Yeah.
Man, you're so far ahead of me. And I'm almost sure when Grandpa get there, he's like, yo, let me get that.
Right, exactly. Yeah. You'll see. I think it pops up again in season 2. So
okay, cool.
You'll see the Valyrian steel. So yes, Valyrian steel is going to be a reoccurring theme throughout the series, and it has special properties because of the fact that it's made in dragonfire. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. And so after he gives him that, what in that scene with the direwolf, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I noticed with the direwolves, and for those who have not seen the series, the direwolves are introduced right after the deserter is beheaded. As they're headed back, they find them on the road, literally, right off the road after deer, it looks like, or something was killed. And
do you want to know some more symbolism?
Oh, I'm pretty sure those was White Walker.
No. So basically, when they find the direwolves, it's they first find a dead stag.
Okay.
And the stag is the sigil of Robert Baratheon. And then they find a dead direwolf with a stag antler stuck in it. Yeah, which is the sigil of the Starks. And the stag being, the antler being inside the direwolf is a symbol that a Baratheon will kill the Stark. So Joffrey Baratheon killing Ned Stark.
A large stag is dead. Robert dies.
Yep. A direwolf is dead with a stag antler in it, which symbolizes a Baratheon killing a Stark, which happened.
Makes sense because the dead stag had 2 antlers still.
Yeah, it was only a section of its antler. It was only like the top portion of an antler.
Large,
yeah.
Right? Okay.
So it broke off part of its antler, and that's what was in the direwolf. But that's a little bit of foreshadowing now that you've seen the entire season that I can tell you.
Oh yeah, because I'm already aware of whose sigils or what. So that does make sense. So, and that's where I was getting at with the direwolves is the connection to the Starks.
Yes.
Including Snow, who is technically a Stark.
Mm-hmm.
So they find them, and then they find 5, and this is what made me another nod to the mystical or the magical.
Yes,
you have 5. They're there for a moment. There's a lot of them around there. Nobody ever sees the 6th one.
Right.
But when they notice there's only 5, there's 5 Stark children. I'm not a Stark. Okay, we're going to go.
Yeah, it's a sign. You guys should keep them.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you hear another one, and it just happens to be all white like
an albino. Yeah. And his name is Ghost because he was unseen.
Ghost. It was like, okay, no, for me, I was like, that was weird. Now, let's keep in mind for anyone watching this that does not know me, I'll give you a little background on me. I love to watch things that are sci-fi or have to do with the ethereal. So a lot of things sometimes if it's even a nod to magical, I'm probably gonna have a quick spin in my head that's gonna connect it to a few other things, and it's gonna be like, all right, where are the writers going with this?
Right.
And that's what it went for me. I immediately was like, okay, that was a little mystical.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, and I think one of the themes of season 1, and you kind of get this with the final scene, is that magic is coming back.
Correct.
We hear talks about it throughout the entire season. People talking about the White Walkers coming back. People constantly talking about dragons. People talking about blood magic and all of this kind of stuff. And so we're starting to see that something that was technically not around for how long is starting to come back for some reason.
Right. And the severe amounts of denial around it, to me, prove it.
Yeah.
And so again, with the Direwolves, still like the Direwolves are very interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that there is a connection, not just of symbolism for each sigil. I believe there is a connection of spirit and mind for each sigil.
Oh yeah,
because they are all tangible.
Yes, and they yeah. So all of the sigils have a certain sort of qualia about them. So like if you think of the sigil for the Greyjoys, right? It's a kraken, which is just a giant squid.
And to find out, realize they're pirates.
And they're a seafaring folk, and they have this sort of like, they call it the drowned god. So it's like, and you'll see in the future episodes how they choose kings, and it's pretty interesting.
Okay, the Greyjoys.
Yeah, the Greyjoys. Yeah.
Okay.
And so yeah, you have like a lot of this, like the sigil is like the embodiment of not just the favored animal, but also like the personality. You have the Lannisters, who are the lions, and they're very bombastic, and they're very family oriented, and they're very like, ferocious. Then you have like this, which is a very majestic sort of creature. Even though Robert Baratheon's far from majestic, he was majestic at one point. Yeah.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is, I believe that the Starks have a telekinetic connection with their direwolves.
Oh man, I can't even get into this.
You don't have to tell me yes or no. You don't have to confirm or deny anything.
Right.
I will give you 3 instances where it makes sense. So you have the first one, as we were saying. Well, I'll give you 4 actually. We have the first one with Snow.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Stark. There wasn't one. He wanted war. He couldn't get one. Boom. There's one there for him.
Right.
They get them. Arya, she's in trouble. Boom. Wolf's there.
Nymeria is there for her. Yeah.
Right. And then you
Bran.
have, I won't go to Bran. Well. I won't even go to Bran because we see how his is attached to him.
Yeah.
And notice they never say anything, and the wolves do exactly what their eyes or their body is. Yeah. But I'll go to Rob.
Oh yeah,
Rob is slightly irritated with somebody, and his wolf is in your face.
Oh yeah, yeah. Grey Wind's pretty badass for sure.
Right, it's like that. So yeah.
Oh, and then you saw when Arya was packing for King's Landing, Nymeria was bringing her clothes to pack. Right. Yeah. So they do give you that little nod that there is some sort of telepathic connection between the Starks and the Direwolves. So you're right on the money with that one.
Right, and I'm not sure if the Starks are aware. I think the only one, and we're gonna move from Snow to Cat, and then we can get to someone else. I think the only one in the family right now who is slightly intuitive about it is Bran, and I think it's because he's lost things that I think he needs to compensate.
There's a couple Easter eggs that will hint at somebody else in the family as well, but I won't reveal them to you because it might ruin it. So, but I will say that Bran, yes, of course, has a connection.
Right. What's the name?
Rickon.
Rickon.
And that's basically what I'm going to say, because actually Rickon has a very intuitive connection to his dog Shaggy Dog. And you don't really get to see it a lot in season 1, but you'll see it a little bit more. It's not like a huge thing, but like you'll just see like in a scene,
catacombs a lot, right?
Yeah, Rickon will pop up out of nowhere, and then Shaggy Dog is with him, and so yeah, they're kind of like almost one entity, in one respect, yeah. So
maybe he's the youngest, so yeah, he would tap in a little faster, huh?
Totally.
Okay, so from there, let's go to Keilyn.
Oh yeah. She had a pretty crazy season 1.
She had a very crazy season 1, stressful even. But
she
I
traveled the continent like 3 times.
Well, and this is what I'm getting at when I say I like it. She had a very stressful season, yes, but I think it showed to her strengths.
Mm-hmm.
I think she could have done Ned's job for him.
Yeah. Oh, certainly.
She has the understanding of the way things work.
Mm-hmm.
She has the headstrong.
She's very diplomatic as well.
Right, diplomacy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She's not afraid.
Yeah.
She's not afraid
to
barter. She's not afraid to have that discussion. And you may not like the fact that she's there. And I thought that was interesting. When you put her and the queen, just say side by side, you're like, you think like, oh, the queen is like, nah, the queen's a hood rat.
Yeah, seriously.
You know, but and then I don't mean that in a way of like, you know, she's like boisterous or anything of that nature. I believe that she is the only one of her family who was prepared for everything. So she's so far ahead of the game. It's like now you're just nasty about it because you're mad that everybody's not on your level.
Yeah, definitely. That is a pretty Cersei quality for sure. You know,
it's like, oh, well, why weren't you as prepared as I am? Like,
yeah,
that wasn't my job. Geez.
Right.
So with Catelyn, yeah, I think her story is going to get even more interesting as it goes. In season 1, as much as she's there, I think the most that I could probably say about her is, again, her character is shown in season 1. It's kind of hard to describe her character. She's very complex.
Yeah.
However,
she's a very relevant character. I think she does good when she's kind of like with Rob, helping temper his ideas and give him some, like, you know, so when Rob goes to fight the Lannisters and he kind of basically wages a war, Catelyn does a good job about being a diplomat, like, and kind of like speaking on Rob's behalf and kind of like settling the beefs between all the lords and stuff. I can think of like when she goes to meet Walder Frey at the Twins, because they have to cross the river, and basically like she has to go and appeal to this old man that's nasty, and like, you know, she knew when she was a little girl, but he's got like a million wives and they're all like 15 years old, and it's pretty gross, but you know, like she handles herself very well and she's able to get this, you know, like cantankerous, you know, curmudgeon-y guy to let them across the river. So that's one of the moments. Well, you know, and another moment too is when she basically takes Tyrion to the Vale, to be on trial. That was a big moment as well.
I feel like I'm gonna ask you, how do you feel about that move? But I want to answer. I mean, that move that she made to capture him, but
retarded.
I want to answer it first. Oh man, I'll give my detail on it first.
Yeah, go ahead.
I agree. It was a terrible move.
Terrible.
However, it again showed two things. Luckily, in my opinion, it was a good move. Excuse me. It was a good lesson for her. Terrible move. I think there was much better things she could have done with the time.
Well, it got Ned killed. That was the reason that's the reason Jaime stabbed him in the streets, and basically everything fell apart is because she decided to take Tyrion, you know, a prisoner. So yeah,
you're right.
It was the worst move of the whole season, to be honest. Like that was the dumbest thing she could have done.
That was the lighting of the fuse. Yeah,
pretty much. After that, there was no turning back. Like everything was basically done. Even though Tyrion escaped from that situation, like it didn't matter at that point because, you know, she had done something so egregious.
Right, and so it's what I was gonna say about the second part. Is the first part it proved was, okay, you're headstrong. The second part it proved was, oh, you're not ready.
Well, and it's also technically not her fault because she was led to believe that Tyrion was the one that hired that guy to try to assassinate Bran. Man. You know, like, and we all know who did that, who orchestrated that. You know, the same guy that orchestrated Ned getting captured, basically, Littlefinger. So he filled Catelyn with this idea that it was Tyrion Lannister that tried to kill her son after he fell into a coma. And she, like she basically went with that and basically, didn't have any proof, but just took his word for it and was like, all right, well, I'm going to go take Tyrion Lannister now because Littlefinger said it was him.
Right. And what was crazy was his story on how he knew it was him. First off, she comes there to talk to the King of Whispers, or the Master of Whispers. The Master of Whispers is like, well, I don't know. Yeah. And his response, Lord Baelish or Littlefinger, his response is, oh, well, for once I know something you don't.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Which it wasn't even true. It was a lie anyways.
Well, and that's where for me, it would have been like, wait, the King of Whispers, and you know something he don't. So that means you're the one who did this. If he doesn't know, then that means it didn't leave from your lips because you did it.
Right. Exactly. No, that is very true. And look, we'll get into all of the craziness Littlefinger gets up to over in the seasons for sure. But
for sure. And the other statement he made as well, just to make sure that everybody gets an understanding, because he doesn't do too much more.
Not a whole lot. I mean, like he does
the second to last episode. So we'll get to that in a moment.
Right.
But it was also the statement for me, at least. It was, I lost this to him in a bet.
Yes. Yeah. He lost a dagger to him, a Valyrian steel dagger, by the way. That's a Valyrian.
He's just going to give that away, huh?
Right. Yeah. Some priceless, piece of whatever. Yeah. To Tyrion Lannister. Why would Tyrion Lannister even want a dagger? Like he doesn't.
Why would Tyrion Lannister want your kid dead?
Right. Exactly. The kid that he made a saddle for and was basically, he already knew who did it. He knew his sister did her. He knew, Tyrion knew it was Cersei and Jaime the whole time. He just didn't say anything.
He wasn't gonna tell. He wasn't. Yeah, I'll give him that. Tyrion, by far, is the most honorable, but the most corrupt at the same time, which makes him the best character.
No, he's a great character. Yeah, he's got a great, great story in season 1. I like him on the road with Bronn. I think Bronn's a fun character too. That kind of I love his trial. I like when he, basically convinces the jailer to let him out and confess his crimes, and then he just starts confessing to things that he did when he was a kid, and everybody at court is like, "What is going on here?"
That was awesome. Well, and so that's the other side. That was another part of where the benefit of Catelyn's mistake. Mm-hmm. We know what the downfall of it was, but the benefit for the viewers, for us watching the show, was it gave us time to know and learn more about Tyrion.
Oh yeah.
To learn more about his character, how far he was willing to go for things, and what it showed me, honestly, at least that particular episode, it showed me a little more that he wasn't per se the person his family is.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like he has the last name Lannister and he has their silver tongue, but he doesn't have their corrupt morals.
Yeah, and he's also he's kind of like Jon Snow in the way that he's an outcast of his family as well. Correct. So I think that's why he, and I really liked the scenes with him and Jon in the beginning, the early episodes where they're kind of on the way to the wall and they're talking about Jon Snow's like, why do you read books? And Tyrion's like, a mind needs a book like a sword needs a whetstone. Yeah, yeah, it's a great line. Yeah, for sure. So I think it's kind of cool because he is a black sheep kind of character. Like his father doesn't really like him all that much. His brother and sister don't really like him all that much, but he still loves his family, and he knows that family is the epitome for especially the Lannisters. They're very much about keeping their name intact.
Right. Well, since we're on Tyrion, we'll just move forward with him. Something else about Tyrion that I thought was interesting is the way he handled his father. Mm-hmm. Knowing his father hates him, understanding the way that goes, but then at the same time, but I am aware that I have accomplished things that you respect. Yeah. Uh-huh. And because of that, I'm going to come forward with more things that you will respect when I am successful in those things. Mm-hmm. So I think the worst thing that could have happened for him, and I think if I'm being honest, if he has the opportunity, he's going to have his father killed. But if he were to get that option. Right. Reason being, when his father basically was like, oh, well, if you didn't make it back, I wouldn't have been heartbroken. But
Oh yeah.
Oh, I think I lost my appetite. Look at that.
Yeah, right.
Like, because if you weren't my father, I'm very sure you'd be dead before sunrise.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Well, Tywin is a crazy character. Like I really like the intro scene of him where he's like, basically gutting a deer and
Right.
dressing it and all that. And he's talking to Jamie about how like a lion doesn't, care about the opinions of the sheep and
Right.
like
As he
he's
cut it.
very much that like strong patriarchal character that like makes his kids conform to his ideas and his values.
You think he would wear horns in the face paint if he had to raid the castle?
Wait, who Tywin?
Yeah.
No, Tywin would have like golden armor and be on like the finest horse.
You don't
what
think
I
he'd
mean?
have like a bunch of zip ties if it were 2021?
Maybe.
My bad. I had to.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, no. But so yeah, Tyrion and no, yeah, Tywin is nuts. How about this? Let's give 30 seconds on Tywin because I know we're gonna have too much on him later.
Oh yeah.
Tywin for me is the perfect father and the worst father all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
He raised all of his kids to do exactly what their jobs are, but he doesn't view them as his kids. They're pawns in his game. He is only there, or excuse me, they are only there because he sees benefit in them being there.
Yeah. He's obsessed with legacy. That's all he cares about. He doesn't care about his children individually. He cares about what legacy they add to the Lannister name.
Correct. Yeah. And what do you think he will do? And this is why I said only 30 seconds, because I know. What do you think he will do if he were to find out the deep, dark secrets of his twin children?
Oh, that, yeah.
We don't have to be too secret about that. The incest that Bran witnessed when he was pushed out.
Oh, yeah. Basically, most of the kingdom knows that Jaime and Cersei are having sex with each other.
Right.
But there will be, I think there is a moment in which that is addressed with Tywin specifically, so I won't, but I can't remember 100%. So, but I do believe that issue will be broached in the future.
Okay.
And
what how do you think he would go about with that?
Honestly, I didn't know if that he would know, and I think that if he had, I thought that I don't know exactly what his response was, but my assumption would have been something along the lines of like separating them, making sure that they can't see each other anymore or something like that,
Right.
Because it would bring it's something that brings shame to the name, and he's not about that. Like, that's the last thing he wants. So
right. But and the reason I asked is because I think he would have done something similar to ensure that Cersei and Jaime were far away from each other. As a father, as far as he can control that.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what he would have said to and or done around Joffrey in this situation. For those who are not aware, Joffrey is noted at the moment as Robert Baratheon's only living son. And
he has Joffrey and Tommen. Yeah. Tommen.
Oh, correct. The youngest boy.
Younger brother. Yeah.
I forget. Mm-hmm. There are 3 Baratheon children of Lannister blood.
Baratheon. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I apologize for that, audience. I forgot about the little brother. I really thought it was Joffrey and the little sister.
Yeah.
But so looking at that though, it's like you kind of just look at it and it's like, okay, we're gonna be stuck in this situation. Not we, but I mean the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna be stuck in a situation where it's like, so if that were to be outed and become an issue, what is the next step? Like, do we go to war and whoever wins the war takes over, or? And so that's why I was curious, like what would Tywin do? Because I don't think he would want to give up the throne, even though his last name's not on the throne. Technically, they control the throne.
Well,
and
yeah,
they will be the successors of the At that point, the Baratheons and the Lannisters will be one. They control the Baratheons now.
Yeah. So the reason that Stark dies is because he finds out that Cersei and Robert's children aren't really Robert's children, they're Cersei and Jaime's children. So her brother and her had 3 children together. And I don't know why they wouldn't have thought of this before, but all of her children have yellow hair and her husband has like jet black hair. Like why would all 3 children have the same hair as their mother and their uncle? I don't know.
None of them have their daddy's hair.
None of them did. No, none of them did. And that was one of the clues. That was
3.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons that Ned Stark, caught on to it, because he realized that all 3 of the children don't have black hair. And when he read through the lineages of the kings, he read that all Baratheons have had black hair since the start of the house. Okay. Yeah. So, I thought
that was a very pivotal moment.
Yes.
Because it showed exactly how, not just how they kept the history, but it showed the consistency of the history. Like you look at the history, even though of course this is a TV show, right? But it is based on the past. Thinking of times back then, like history would have had to be kept like that versus how history is today, where it's kind of like, oh, well, hey, I think this was a piece of history. Yeah, put that one over there for me. And, that's how history is today.
Yeah, and you'll get to learn more about the people who keep the history books and the maesters and stuff in future seasons. So you'll get to learn a little bit more about them, which is interesting.
Masters.
Yeah, for sure.
And so from there, like I said, we're only given a short moment to Tywin. And so Tyrion, again, he also seems like the most educated in his family. But again, that moment he had with Jon Snow with the books, a mind needs a book like a sword needs a whetstone. Jaime has what? A sword.
Oh, yeah.
His father has what? A sword.
Yes.
His sister is a queen, so she is a woman. She is a womb in this arc. And so
his only defense is his wit.
Exactly. Yeah. That is his only weapon. And he is probably the best at it. Second behind him would at this point be the young Littlefinger.
Yes, yeah. Littlefinger definitely has a whole bunch of coals in the fire. I honestly, I can't really stand the character of Littlefinger. I think he's so skeezy, and I don't understand why anybody believes him ever.
Well, because he has a charming face.
Yes, yeah, and he talks in like kind of a raspy whisper. Yeah.
Get really close if you want to know the truth.
Yeah, I do love the scene. The scene where Varys and Littlefinger are in the throne room, and they're kind of like having a pissing contest about who knows the most secrets. Yeah,
right. I didn't know. I'm gonna be honest, because this is HBO, and it's a very open show that's honest about everything, and we've already had a scene that showed us that Lord Renly, the brother of Robert Baratheon, is in a homosexual relationship with the Knight of Flowers.
Yes, Loras Tyrell.
Yeah, thank you. So I honestly thought that's where that was headed.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't see this coming, but okay. And it was like, I respect you. And I was like, oh, okay. That's not where this is going. Like, I didn't know. I was like, okay, either they're going to kill each other or they're going to confess they love each other. And it was like, oh, no, this is purpose, like a mutual respect. But then I had to remember, wait, this is not a show in 2021. This is a show in 2011. 2, a show set way back in the Dark Ages.
Yeah, in some weird fantasy world. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, whereas you can have the love, like the sexual nature of love, to have the general love for a man and you guys are not warriors, it's like,
right. Yeah.
What? But for them to have to be like clear, like, hey, we are warriors in the same fight. So my respect for you, my love for you comes from the fact that I see someone who does what I do as well as what I do, and I didn't think that was possible.
Yeah, but but it's so funny because even when they are talking with each other, like they're still playing each other. You know what I mean? Like they're still manipulating each other. They're still trying to get one up on each other. So I kind of like that dynamic for sure. We should move on to another
I was gonna
character.
ask, you should. What character would you like to choose? We just left, so we
Um,
covered Tyrion. I'd say
we
we've
just
covered
left
the
him.
most of Littlefinger for the most part.
Yeah, Littlefinger doesn't play a huge role except for screwing over Catelyn with the dagger situation, and then he also screws over Ned Stark by setting him up basically to get thrown in the dungeon.
Correct. Correct.
But yeah, I guess we should talk about
Sansa.
we could talk about Sansa or Arya. They're both kind of interchangeable at this moment,
I
just
think so.
because they're
Yeah.
together. So yeah, we can talk about both of them.
Right.
Yeah, Sansa and Arya. So they're made to go with Ned Stark to King's Landing in order to live their lives in King's Landing as ladies. Arya obviously is the type, non-conformity type. She doesn't want to be a lady. She wants to be a warrior. She wants to be, like a badass. And I think it's kind of cool that Ned Stark doesn't really mind. Like he's okay with Arya kind of having that sort of wild spirit and not necessarily wanting to just be tied down, be a lady, produce children and that's all her lot in life is.
That's not me.
Yeah, exactly. So when they're in King's Landing, she's given before then she's given a sword by Jon Snow as a goodbye gift, and a needle, and Ed Stark gives her some Bravosi water dancing lessons, which water dancing is a code for basically like the fight style of the Bravosi people, the sword fighting style. So
water dance, yeah,
water dancing. So she gets to kind of train as a Bravosi water dancer for a while she's down in King's Landing, and that's kind of her whole story arc in the first season, is that she's just training with Syrio Forel. Right. She's kind of learning how to balance. She's learning how to manipulate a sword. She's learning how to be quiet and stealthy.
So chasing cats.
Yeah, so you can kind of see the writing on the wall about where the character might be headed in the future. And but she doesn't have a whole lot to do in this season particularly. It's really about her coming to terms with the fact that she doesn't want to be a lady. She wants to be something else. She wants to be this, this warrior.
Right. What I liked about Arya's character specifically was just the pure honesty of a child.
Mm-hmm.
Every kids don't want what you want them to have. They want what they want.
Right.
And they find the way to get it. And what I loved about it was she found the way to get it. And the way to get it was to continue to do it when everyone else was saying, don't do it.
Right. Yeah.
And prove that it was like, no, this is something I really want.
Yeah.
Like, oh, but we're just going to talk. We're going to talk nice about it. And we're going to get you all on board where you're all, okay, well, I guess I'll just do what you're saying. And she's like, no.
No. Yeah. She doesn't. She's along with the program for sure. She's kind of a counter thing. And I think that we would be remiss without mentioning the fact that Arya and Sansa both lost their direwolves in season 1. So that's kind of sad. Sansa had her direwolf killed when Nymeria, Arya's direwolf, bit Joffrey. But Arya was sent away by Arya, so they decided that they were going to kill Sansa's direwolf as punishment.
Right.
Which is kind of messed up.
I don't think if I'm being honest, I don't think Arya has lost her direwolf. I think her direwolf's going to be out there. And I think it's not only protecting itself, I think it's somewhere near. And then when something really bad happens, it's going to be right there where she needs it. And I don't think it's going to be until she's much older.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Unfortunately, at this point, they're out of the picture.
Yeah. This is really just me, waiting for the writers to watch this and be like, hey, he has a good head on his shoulder. No.
Yeah. So basically, Sansa is the older sister, and she is set to be betrothed and married to Robert's son, Joffrey. Now, Joffrey doesn't really get a whole lot of play. He gets a little bit of early on play where you kind of figure that he's like this sniveling. So first, he's supposed to be this just charming character from the far that you don't really know anything about. Then you kind of get to know who he is in the scenes, and you find out that he's like really awful, and he's kind of like this tyrant king that you would never want to have because he's just a petulant child, and like he's weak and easily angered and doesn't make very good decisions. And so when Robert dies, he's the next in line, and we can only see how far that goes because he's currently the king right now.
Look, better pray to the new and the old gods. How about that?
Right? Yeah. He's not a good king, and he wasn't a very good prince either. He wasn't very good. He wasn't very good to Sansa, and Sansa obviously, had to witness her father being murdered. After she pleased to Joffrey to kind of have mercy. And, Joffrey agrees to have mercy on Ned and send him to the wall instead of executing him, as long as he admits that he was, treasonous and that Joffrey is the rightful king.
Right.
Well, Ned does that, and Joffrey's still like, all right, well, sorry, I'm still going to kill you.
Yeah. Well, no, that's not, no sorries.
No sorries.
And it's crazy that the Joffrey story is Sansa's story. Like Sansa really doesn't have much going, especially.
Yeah, everything is just happening to Sansa.
Yeah, exactly. And so what I thought was crazy about the whole ordeal where he decides, no, my mother and my lady don't want, me to kill him. They want me to bring him back and yada, yada, yada. They have the weak hearts of women, and it's like,
oh yeah.
What did you guys think? This is the kind of kid, audience. This is the kind of kid that you ask, "Are you hungry?" He says, "Yes." You bring him food without telling him what the food was, but it's
no, food. You don't want. You're gonna throw it in your face.
Throw it in your face.
Yeah.
Throw it in the face. Throw it on the floor. Or something. Wait, but I bring you food. I don't want that. Well, you didn't say what you wanted.
Doesn't matter.
Like,
yeah.
Doesn't matter. It's not what they wanted.
Yeah.
I said I wanted a red plate.
Right.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
So,
he Jack Gleason is the actor that plays Joffrey, and so often he gets comments like, I've hated you for so long because you've played that character. Like, he did so good at being hateable, like people still hate him. Yeah.
And what he was, so he's in his mid-20s by now.
Yeah, probably about 24, 25. Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, so that's pretty. And that, for the most part, that's pretty much the most on Joffrey as well.
Yeah, Joffrey doesn't get it up to much until he becomes king, which happens at the end of season 1.
Correct.
And the first
season 2, though.
Yeah, the first real thing he does is behead Ned. And then he, removes the tongue of that bard that sang a song a song that was bad mouthing his mom.
Right.
And then he cuts off his tongue in court. That was pretty cool.
That was cool. That showed he has that same honor of family that the rest of the Lannisters do.
Of course, but he's also a sadist and he enjoys inflicting pain. So
yes, that is important to know.
Yeah, So not really a lot happens with Sansa except for the fact that she's basically traumatized over and over again. She's taken for this ride, and fortunately that changes a little bit in the future episode or seasons, because there was a lot of criticism about Sansa's character. A lot of the time people were upset because she just has the worst luck. Man. And she just gets the worst end of all the deals. And so, I do feel bad for that character for sure. But
I feel like,
but then she has to stay in King's Landing with no family.
Well, and that's exactly what I'm thinking. I'm like, I think to be there alone, to have a teenage boyfriend, king man, who has the power to tell grown men to punch you in your face because you didn't smile when he had you look at your dad's severed head.
Right.
I think those are the things that make me wonder, how long is he going to be king? But because I've seen enough TV in my lifetime, those are the things that make me say, He's gonna be king quite a while, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, I
always
won't comment.
Characters that last.
I won't comment, but he definitely is a disgusting character, and I mean, like, he doesn't get any better, that's for sure.
And that's generally my point. Like, even as king, I'm sure it's only going to get a little grittier. And what makes him disgusting is you're a 15-year-old kid who learned you so bad. Like, who hurt you?
Right. Yeah.
Who hurt you?
Right. Well, what's cool is that the only person that can really put him in his place is Tyrion. And that, at least that's kind of satisfying when Tyrion smacked him around a few times.
Or just calls him out on his mess. Like, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? And then I also thought the funny scene. Oh, excuse me. Nope. Ha ha ha.
What was that season?
A little further. I apologize, guys. We'll get to the court a whole lot later.
Oh yeah,
that's later.
Right.
So transitioning from Joffrey, we've covered Arya. Arya has Needle. Needle is given to her by Jon Snow. Sansa is a ward of the Lannister family at this point.
Pretty much.
Bran.
Oh yeah, I always forget about
Bran is right. Yeah. So Bran, as we covered him a little bit earlier, he is the middle child, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of the Stark family.
Well, second youngest.
Second youngest. Yeah, let's call him that. He's the second youngest of the Stark family, and he is an incredible climber. In fact, we basically open as the king is coming. The king and his whole caravan is on their way in. They've been traveling for a month. He is laying atop of their dwelling. I wouldn't call it a castle.
Yeah, like a parapet or like a fort.
Right. Yeah. But he's literally on top of it, like on the outside, not like in a window. And as he sees the king, and no binoculars, this isn't, new age. They didn't break it. He's looking with his bare eyes. Kid got skills. But he also has some very short feet. And I thought that was amazing. Like, he just, hey, the kings, and the little feet were perfectly aligned, and he jumps gets around. Mom sees him.
Oh, yeah, gets in trouble.
If you ever climbed anything as a kid, 10-year-old boy, you know what mom said.
Yeah.
Get down.
Right.
And I thought it was cool to be introduced to Bran and his curiosity that way. I just thought it was very trash to end the very first episode with him being shoved out of a window.
Oh yeah. But they gotta bring you back in for more, like they gotta give you that hook.
It's like first I was so into the show, I didn't realize I had been watching it to the point of which, like, this is probably about the end of that episode, at least.
Right.
And I'm sitting there like, oh God, what's gonna happen? What he caught them, as we said a little earlier. Cersei and Jaime have a thing, even though they are twin brother and sister. When Bran is climbing, he hears the noise. He peeks in the window. He sees him. Cersei looks up in pleasure and then in shock.
Well, they could have, what could have happened? They could have had, if Bran had just not climbed that tower, they could have ended the story right there.
One episode.
That would have been it. One
TV
episode.
movie.
And it's over. Yeah. Ned Stark just goes to Winterfell and is the king's hand from now on. That's it.
You're right. Yeah, nothing else would have transpired.
Nothing.
But a testament of strength, a testament of willpower and mental power. This 10-year-old child is shoved out of a parapet window, a small castle window, and he just loses control of his legs. He goes into a 3-4 day, like a 3-month coma.
I'd say it's probably a few weeks. Yeah.
Okay, a few weeks coma.
Yeah.
Everybody has to leave, so when he comes out of the coma, it's just him.
Yeah, everybody's gone.
He's the king of Winterfell right now. It's like,
yeah.
I was pushed out of a window and I wake up a cripple and the king, huh?
Yeah.
He doesn't care for that, but I think it is a testament again to what I was saying about their connection with the Direwolves and the plausibility of the mystical things that come back. That's a lot of mental power, man. That's a lot of brain power to bring yourself back from something like that.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too that they cut the scene where he wakes up right as Lady is killed. Ned kills Sansa's direwolf, and then he wakes up.
I think they all felt it though.
Yeah.
That's
what I kind of mean. Yeah.
And then so from there, as he's bedridden and mom and everybody's gone. No, excuse me. Yes, as he's in his coma still, before he awakes from his coma, though, the assassination attempt happens, which is nuts to me. Like, who sends an assassin to kill a 10-year-old?
Yeah, it seems like a little bit unnecessary, but I mean, the only person that I know that I don't even know if is this spoiling it. Like, the only person with the motive to send the assassin is Cersei, right? Like, that's the only logical. That's the only logical person that makes sense. Like, that's the only person.
I think even Jaime has too much honor for that.
Yeah, I don't think that Jaime would bother with that.
Right, he's a sir. He's not just a knight. He's a sir. Yeah. I think he has way too much honor to be trying to kill a 10-year-old kid. Like, his line, even as he shoves him out the window, like, "Oh, the things I do for love," and it's like, "No, you didn't do that for love, bro. You did that for survival."
Yeah, Jaime is such a dick, man. In the first season, he is awful.
I mean, hey, your name's the Kingslayer.
Yeah, and so he gets captured
from the Kingslayer.
Yeah, he gets captured by Robb, and now he's a prisoner. So we'll see what happens to him now that he's imprisoned. But let's see. There's not that much that happens with Bran aside from him waking up out of the coma. That's pretty much it, at least for now.
Right. The next most interesting things about Bran after that is the type of questions he asks. He has some very lucid dreams where he sees three-eyed crow. I thought that was interesting. 3 eyes, or the third eye is the mark of a pineal gland. Foresight.
Psychic abilities.
Right. Ravens are messengers. So this messenger is coming to you with the gift of foresight. Yada, yada, yada. I was putting a lot of that together, as I said a little earlier.
Oh, yeah.
That TV, it's there. What do you want from me?
Yeah.
And so right there, you pretty much get to the end of Bran. Not the end of Bran as a character, but the end of Bran
just for the season.
For the season, yeah.
Yeah. Not a lot goes on. He gets pushed out the window. He's in a coma for a while. He has some weird dreams, and then he wakes up, and then he basically has to be the Lord of Winterfell for the time being. Yeah.
Right. And then you have Robb, and that's the last of their kids, because we've covered Rickon. There's nothing about Rickon really. Actually, that's it about Rickon, is the one time you see him coming out of the catacombs in season 1.
Yep.
Sansa, Arya. We have a little more to add with Arya, but we'll cover that in a moment. But when we get to after Bran, there's nothing on Rickon.
Yeah.
And then Robb.
Yeah.
So Robb is probably one of the more interesting characters to me. I see a lot of growth coming from Robb's character. I see a lot of change happening around Robb's character. But I also see a lot of conflict coming from Robb's character, simply because you can't gas somebody up as hard as he's being gassed up and then try to get him to let that down without a fight. So
yeah, for sure.
So I see that like being I'm not gonna say it. But I see that being a very familiar situation for 2021. That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I think that Robb is kind of like this. He's kind of like he's thrust into the position of being the Lord of Winterfell when Ned leaves. Then Ned gets captured, and Robb decides that he's going to go to war with the Lannisters. So he sends his army down, the continent, and basically most of the story for Robb in season 1 is him making his way to King's Landing and fighting, battles as they go. Interestingly enough, you can tell that the budget was very low for season 1 because they don't have any battle scenes. All the battle scenes are like, them showing up after a battle has happened. Yeah, because I think it just costs too much for them to make like battle scenes for the first season. But
hey, we got a couple of duel scenes, and I'll take them.
Yeah. No, I didn't necessarily need a battle scene at all. But Robb does, end up kind of going to war with the Lannisters during season 1. He kind of steps into his own and becomes like this commander. Then they find out, like, after he crosses the twins, via Walder Frey, he's basically has to promise that he marry one of the daughters of Walder Frey in order to cross the river. So he makes that oath to do so. And then, all of the lords of the north are following him, and they realize, like, well, why do we even care who the king is down south? Because they don't, they're so far away from us that they don't even like rule our lives at all. The only king that I want to bend my knee to is this one here. And they basically name Robb the King of the North.
King of the North.
Yeah. And thus the Battle of the Five Kings starts.
Yep.
Because this is the start of the Battle of the Five Kings. Robb becomes declared King of the North. That's when this whole battle starts. So you got Robb, you have Joffrey Baratheon, you have Stannis Baratheon, then you have Renly Baratheon, and there's somebody else. I'm forgetting one of them.
The Theon.
Yeah, I guess Theon's a part of that, but there's another. Yeah, there's another one.
Well, no, it's the Greyjoys, and then you would even technically be looking at Daenerys.
Yeah, I guess Daenerys can kind of be a part of that. I forget who the heck I'm thinking. I think it's the Battle of Five Kings, but I forget who I'm.
Five Kings, correct?
Yeah, I'm forgetting one of the claimants to the throne.
Stannis, Renly, Joffrey, Robb. No, yeah, it's Greyjoy.
Yeah, but they don't make a claim for the throne.
You're right.
There's somebody else that makes a claim for the throne, and I just don't know who. I forget who it is, but
they're backdooring their victory.
Yeah, yeah, they aren't going to do anything up front, that's for sure. But Robb basically spends most of his time traveling. He becomes King of the North, and we kind of lead on that sort of area when he finally outsmarts Tywin and Jaime and is able to capture Jaime in battle.
Beautiful move.
And that was like one of the first real victories he gets as a commander. And so now he has Jaime Lannister as a prisoner, and we'll see how he leverages that in the future.
Right. And I thought that was pivotal because even Jaime kept trying to Tyrion. He just kept telling his dad from the moment by the time he got to the camp. And I want to go back to Tyrion for the Sky Cells, but I'll get there in a minute.
Oh yeah.
But he kind of kept telling his dad, like, I think you'll like this one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, he's a start, but you'll like this one. And even his dad kind of had to look at him like, what do you mean by that? Like, his kid's got a set of balls on him. Like,
yeah, right.
Like, he's not joking. He's out here for blood, man.
Yeah.
And I think
he proves to be a competent. He proves to be a competent warrior. So
right. Yeah. And I think that's the whole thing is Robb is a testament to prowess in those days. Like what stature really meant and how it was gained. It wasn't gained by talking about it. He's getting out there. He's drawing up the plans. And even contrary to what his own appointees, guys that he's brung in to help him plan properly, contrary to what some of them believe and want him to do, he's like, nah, I mean, I see what you're saying there, but you see this right here? This is what we're going to do. Do you know why? Because you guys have done this 500 times. That's what they're expecting.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And he has got a kind of a fresh perspective that helps him throughout his battling. Yeah, for sure. But there isn't much else to say about Robb yet. Nope. Yeah, like the Battle of the Five Kings kind of really takes off in season 2, and you'll see that more. But let's see, we're missing Daenerys. Daenerys always feels like an annex of the story, huh?
Yeah, no, we're not missing Daenerys. So what it was is before we moved to the Targaryens, I actually just wanted to make sure we finished the Starks and the Lannisters.
Okay.
And reason being, there's not a lot of Stark Lannister involvement with the Targaryen situation, and then there's
the Targaryens are all by themselves.
Yeah, it's all by themselves, and then the Dothraki.
Yeah,
and so with that again we'll list it out. Cat, Robb, Sansa, Arya, Bran, Rickon, Jon Snow, Theon. We've covered as much of Tyrion as we can, aside from the Sky Cells. I thought that was really cool.
What's a cool detail? Yeah, it's a cool detail too. Is that, and I don't really show that as much in the TV shows. Is that in the book, the Sky Cells have slanted floors that are slanted towards the exit area where you fall. So so you have to
the drain to symbolize that it was slightly slanted.
Right. Yeah.
Or him rolling in his sleep.
Yeah. I guess that worked. I just didn't really see, I don't know. I guess they didn't really make it obvious. That was more subtle. Yeah,
To
but
be very clear, I am the guy who the very first time I saw Mission Impossible 3, you know the scene I'm talking about?
I don't think so.
There's a scene, I believe it's Mission Impossible 3, where they're like, he's like climbing the side or coming down the side of the building. I don't know, but the camera angle is down towards the ground.
Yeah.
And it gives you that same notion that you're having a free fall while you're watching the movie.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
It's nuts. And I got a slight feeling of that when I was like when he peeked over, I was peeking over.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's why I wanted to bring up the sky cells, because it's the same thing. I thought it was a great note to detail, and I felt like whether that was a part of the book or not, that was just a great scene.
And it's a cool, I like that about the different kingdoms. They're all very unique. So the Eyrie, where the Sky Cell is, basically is a castle that's built on this really, like this kind of spire-like mountain that is like standing all by itself. So there's nothing else around it. And so at the top of this mountain is basically the castle. And so like you basically you have these cells that are just 3-wall cells, and then the open wall is just this open air, because the castle is thousands of feet in the air. If you stay there too long, you might as well just jump out and like allow yourself to fly away.
Is rather than having to even sentence you, you're gonna leave you in there long enough for you to go crazy.
Oh yeah, you might as well just jump out and end it.
You're that high up. There's gusts of wind. It's cold.
Oh yeah.
Imagine if there's a storm.
Oof, not fun.
Man.
Yeah.
I thought that was one of the more, and I'll say it that way, it's one of the more beautiful moments for me. It was like, oh, this is gonna get crazy.
Yeah, I like those little details that kind of like the way they use the geography in their own specific areas to, like to do stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So Tyrion, Joffrey, not much more to add on Jaime. Jaime is the twin brother of Cersei. Cersei is the queen, excuse me. He's a big dog, man. Jaime is the fighter in the family. He is blessed with the gift to murder, so to speak.
Yeah, he's the golden boy.
Right, he's the golden boy. And he and his sister have this weird incestual love thing. They're twins, so that makes it even weirder.
Yeah.
And the only thing to say about him is he kind of walks around swinging his sword like he owns the world.
Yeah.
And Robb Stark put it into that real fast for him.
Finally.
Bring him to heel. Let's call it that. He brought him to heel.
Yeah, after a whole season of him being a jerk and basically arrogant.
Essentially.
Yeah.
So that's where we leave off with Jaime. From Jaime, again, Cersei is the queen. She is the female version of her brother.
Yeah,
she murdered with orders rather than her own hands.
Oh yeah.
And there's
Cersei plays a large role throughout the series, so there's going to be more talk about Cersei in future roles. Or future seasons, but at least for right now, there's not a whole lot to say about her. Is that she kind of just plays this woman scorned, and she's it's like she's basically she's married to the king, but like she loved him at some point, but the king was wrapped up like basically had unrequited love because he loved Ned Stark's sister, and Ned Stark's sister, we don't know yet what happened, but like they didn't end up together, and he's always hated that, and so he never really loved Cersei, even though they were together for 17 years and apparently had 3 kids or whatever. And she kind of carries this sort of like bitterness about that around, because like she was really in love with Robert when they first got together, and he just never felt anything for her.
Right. And she even said that on their wedding night, he came in so drunk that he wasn't even able to perform, and he called her his Ned's sister's name. Right,
exactly.
Like the night of their wedding.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So that relationship was basically doomed from the start, unfortunately. And it really wasn't Cersei's fault. Like she went into the relationship in earnest, it was Robert that was hung up with some girl that he could never have, that like, you know, just like basically ruined Cersei. Like eventually over time, she just became so bitter, you know, like I think one of the best scenes, and we'll bring this up, I'm sure, at the end when we talk about the best scenes of the season. But one of the best scenes is when she and Robert are having that talk, you know. Do you remember that, where they're sitting in the chambers and they're just having a glass of wine talking to each other?
Well,
that's probably
she took
yeah. That's probably one of the best scenes, to be honest. And it's just so honest. It's like two people that really hate each other, but they're forced to be together, and they're forced to be king and queen. And it's kind of sweet, because there's this way that they talk to each other that's like, look, I know we hate each other, but in another reality, we could have been in love.
Good together.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was a little touching from Cersei's side, to realize like, oh, wow, she really wanted that to work out.
Yeah.
And so you see how she is built to be, like you were saying, how she is built to become so nasty, so to speak.
Yeah.
However, the craziest thing to me about that scene, or just their whole dynamic, I wouldn't say that scene. That scene showed me their dynamic. And that dynamic showed me that it took 17 years for you guys to even have a discussion.
Yeah.
Like, you guys, do you even know what she likes to eat?
Right. Yeah. No.
You know what I mean? You're the king. You would have to at least order somebody to go get her food. But
yeah.
So yeah.
Well, and you know, to be fair, Robert was pretty awful. He was blatantly, you know, like accosting women in front of her, and you know, basically whoring himself to an early grave, as he liked to say.
Do you think he's wrong for doing it in front of Jaime, though?
I think so. I think that's kind of a dick move, to be honest. Like, Robert was this kind of guy that thought he could just get away with anything, and he was an asshole for so long. People hated him. And that's the reason that, like, you know, I think that's the reason that he met his demise. Really, it's just because, like, everybody hated him. Nobody wanted to help him.
Yeah.
You know, nobody gave a crap that he got injured. You know, like, they're all just like, meh, okay, well.
Right. So those are the next two people I was gonna go to, is Ned and then Robert, excuse me, King, Your Grace. So from Cersei. Before we get to Robert, let's jump to Ned. So Ned is the best friend. So what threw me off at first was his name is Ned Stark, but he is the Eddard Stark.
Well, his name is Eddard, but his nickname is Ned.
Oh, Ned. Okay, yeah. So that's I was like, so is his name Eddard or is his name Ned?
His name, yeah, it's both.
I'm calling his Ned. Mama called him Clay. I'm calling him Clay. So yeah, that threw me for a minute. But so Ned Stark is the best friend of the king. Like Nick said earlier, they served together. They were essentially raised together.
Yes.
And the hand that is dead at the beginning of the show, or at the beginning of the series, and that they are putting in that they're having the ceremony for,
John Aaron.
John Allen. He's the guy who raised the both of them. Yeah.
I'm
sorry, I'm saying that incorrectly. Raised the both of them. There we go.
Yeah.
And so when he's taken out, that's a strike to both gentlemen. And I think that's the main reason, not just that he needed Ned to be his hand, but it's like, yo, I don't trust anybody if I don't trust him. Like,
right.
You're the next person I trust. And if I don't trust you, I don't trust nobody.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Saying he loved him more than he loved his own brothers. Like, I never loved my brothers. Like, that was a powerful moment. And so Ned is really just a humble warrior. Like,
he's a soldier.
Yeah, raised warrior, bred warrior. He follows orders. He takes orders. He follows through with his orders. If you leave him in charge long enough, he'll give a few orders. But for the most part, he's just waiting to be given an order.
Yeah.
And you saw that the moment the king hit the gates, man. It was, of course, you got to go through protocol and bow and everything. But, it's very clear you could say no. He's even pretty much telling you, like, you could say no.
Yeah.
But you're not going to say no.
Yeah, of course not.
And you're not going to say no, not because you think you have to do it for your friend. You think it's your duty.
Yeah, exactly. I would have told him no. I would have told him, nah, man.
You
I appreciate you came here, but I'm not going.
listen, I've been like, I could advise from over here, and I
Right, exactly.
advise your next hand on how to find out what happened to the last hand, doing the things that I would do, but
Right.
I'm not gonna do them.
No, yeah.
I got a bunch of these little kids I'm trying to watch run around. But he had made it very clear that he had already become comfortable with his death. He, like he said, he's raised a warrior. He grew comfortable with his death a long time ago. What about the death of your kids, bro?
Yeah, he had. I know. Yeah, he totally didn't care really about his kids at all when he's in the dungeon and he's like telling Varys, like, I'm ready to die. I don't care. What do you want me? What, I buy a few more years by confessing? I don't care. Right. And then Varys is like, well, you have kids here, man. Do you need to be reminded that your children are here, like, without anybody around?
Just you in the dungeon.
Yeah, just you in a dungeon, and like your two daughters are like God knows where. So, this is where I talk about where Ned's sort of like honor system makes him blind to a whole bunch of stuff. Where it's like, I don't care, I'm ready to die. I'll die an honorable death as an honorable man, but I'm going to leave my daughters orphaned in a strange land.
That's what I'm saying. Look, a little bit of honor ain't gonna get you nothing but some chuckles in the courtyard while your head is rolling.
Right, exactly, and that's exactly what happened. He decided to be too honorable. What's funny is that the one thing that he finally decided to break his honor and lie, and that's what got executed, which is so crazy.
I was so disappointed, man.
Yeah, because he finally
honorable. He ain't lying.
Yeah, so Sansa basically says, like, you have the opportunity to be given mercy if you admit that you were planning to overthrow the king and that Joffrey is the real king to the throne, and you were trying to set up a coup. And Ned Stark initially says, well, I don't care about that. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to rot in this dungeon. I don't care about dying. And then Varys is like, well, you do have a family here. And so he finally concedes, and he's like, okay, fine. So he goes up in front of everybody in King's Landing and basically says, like, I committed treason. Joffrey Baratheon is the rightful king, and I asked for his mercy. And he was lying, because Joffrey Baratheon is actually not even a Baratheon. He's a Lannister, and he's not the rightful king. And the whole reason he was put in a dungeon is because he made it public that he knows that the Lannister children are not Baratheons, and so they have no claim to the throne.
Right.
And then obviously he went back on his word to appease Sansa and save his children. And then the moment he decides to break his honor code is when he gets beheaded. So
you were trying to uphold honor to a 15-year-old.
Right. Yeah. Of course.
Does a 15-year-old know about?
None.
Yeah. And I think it's those kind of things. As far as his honor, something else his honor hurt, in my opinion. His honor hurt his own friend's foresight. Had he not had so much honor when Robert, and this is when we'll move into Robert, was talking about, taking out Daenerys once he found out she was pregnant, and all of the honor, oh, you don't kill a baby. We're not talking about killing a baby. We're talking about killing a pregnant woman.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
We're talking about killing a pregnant woman that we are aware her lineage gives birth to mystical creatures.
Right, yeah. Or her lineage gives birth to people that have control over mystical creatures.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't think we're killing her or her baby. I think what we're killing is the only thing that has the power to kill us all.
Right. Well,
of course, not realizing that we have a common enemy on the way, but
Yeah, but and I don't know how much they talk about this in season 1, but this isn't really spoilers. But the Targaryens basically controlled Westeros for like 1,000 years. Right. So the Targaryens came to Westeros with dragons and basically like owned everything, and everybody was like, okay, like, we don't want any beef. You guys can be the kings. And so Targaryens were rulers of Westeros for like 1,000 years before they were ousted by Robert's rebellion.
Right. I know. Well, I know in the intro, if you pay attention, for those out there watching, they have, I forgot what it's called, Dragon Island or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Dragonstone.
And that's like you see it in the map.
Yeah.
And Dragonstone, and it's on this side after King's Landing, and then after you cross the little water, and that's where Daenerys and all them are now with Khal Drogo and them. I realized that they're over here, but Dragonstone is only here, so they're not really far from their homeland. They just have no way.
They're just across the narrow sea. Yeah, the narrow sea isn't that big, so it's just if you were on a dragon, you'd be able to make it there in a day.
Right.
You can make it across.
Like they just don't, and they don't have ships, so they have no way to get there.
Right, and the Dothraki aren't seafarers, and they don't necessarily like ships that much. So, yeah,
I understand. A little rocky on the water.
Yeah. Well, that should bring us to our final character, Daenerys, because again, she always feels like a separate entity to me sometimes, because like everybody else is so interconnected and interacting with each other, but Daenerys is like on the other side of the world, experiencing her own completely different thing. So
different.
Yeah,
things that they don't even know exist on the other side.
Right. Well, and I kind of like the differences between Essos and Westeros. Like Essos is very more Asiatic, a lot more like it kind of reminds me of like the Middle East meets Africa meets Asia.
Yeah.
So it's like all like this big amalgamation of these different cultures.
America and Canada. I mean, North America.
Westeros is basically England. Like it's even shaped like England, like the United Kingdom. George R.R. Martin did that on purpose. So
I never knew that.
Yeah, it's modeled after England.
Now, if I'm being honest, when I realized it was Essos and Westeros, I was like, East Coast, West Coast?
Pretty much, yeah.
Like, I think George R.R. Martin is a hip hop.
Maybe.
So Daenerys, I love her character. I love the way her character starts. I like the way her character ends season 1. She starts as just the shy little sister. I just do what I'm told. I'm quiet. Like I don't really like this. Oh my god,
the victim of circumstance.
Right. However, I knew she was interesting when first I thought it was about anger. If I'm being honest, first I thought this was an anger thing. Her brother's in there, kind of antagonizing her. You're going to give yourself to him and show him all your goods, and it's like, yo, I could shank you if you were anybody else. Like,
I
could kill you right now. Right. And the servant had just finished filling the tub, and she just steps into it, not molting, but like boiling hot water. Yeah. And by the time the servant turns, like, oh no, my lady, you're not supposed. It's too hot, and she's just stiff faced,
chilling. Yeah.
And I was like, wait. And mind you, they hadn't talked about it yet, but I'm like, well, they do say something about dragons and okay, let's see what's going. I don't know why. Something about that immediately. No, wait, he did say he was the dragon. The brother said he was the dragon before that.
Yeah.
So I guess never mind. That's where that became planted. Viserys had already said he was the dragon. You don't want to wake the dragon, do you?
Yeah.
It's not like such a 80s kung fu line.
It totally does.
So, and if I'm being honest, I don't even really want to cover Viserys. I'll cover him during Daenerys because
that's okay. Khal Drogo already covered him. Hey.
But he oh man. But so she starts, she gets in the tub, boom. Move on to the next scene. Literally, she steps out, they're dressed. They're awaiting Khal Drogo's arrival to find his approval, whether or not he will or will not marry her. And she's a gift from his brother. Yeah. So I just love the storyline and how that spiraled. So I'll go through that a little bit and how I felt about certain moments, and let me know, if you want to add anything or how you felt about them. So the marriage scene, immediately straight to the marriage scene.
The wedding was wild, man.
Yeah, the wedding was crazy. I like that rule of, if there's at least 3 deaths, that's not, if there's less than 3 deaths, that's a dull event. Like, that's
right.
That's kind of cool.
That's how they get down.
Right. I like having those kind of lines just interjected so you learn more about the culture of these certain groups. Because I don't think the Dothraki are going to be gone because of what happened at the end of season 1. Right. I think they're just going to be different.
Right.
And they will bow. But so you go from that, and immediately you have Sir Jorah. When he first is presented, he comes with the text, the tomes or the information,
the songs and history of Westeros,
histories, right? Of 7 kingdoms.
Mm-hmm.
At first, I'm like, okay, like way to give a 19th century or a 20th century gift, jerk.
Yeah.
But then the eggs come, and I was confused. Like, were the eggs from him or were they from someone else?
Oh, they're from Illyrio.
From Illyrio.
The guy that basically was introducing Viserys and Daenerys to Khal Drogo.
From the rich guy.
Yep.
That's why he knew so much about him. Because I was going to say he was the only one that knew anything about him, but they didn't say who they were from.
Right.
And I was like, so what? We just mystically, again, to me in my mind, like, is this another mystical moment where the eggs just appear as a gift?
Yeah.
Like, okay. And so as she's going through that, that intrigue of her learning about those and seeing her immediately, for me at least, it was an immediate like, oh, she's drawn to them somehow.
Mm-hmm.
She's drawn to them for whatever reason.
Of
Fast
course.
forward to her and Khal Drogo having sex, and she's clearly drawn to them because last night you weren't even enjoying sex with this dude. Tonight you're not worried about sex. You focused on the eggs.
Oh yeah.
And I thought that was a powerful moment as well, because it's like, okay, we again getting to that mystical, that magical moment. It's like the ties in this are strong.
Yeah.
They have
for
to
sure.
be.
Yeah.
Considering the time, if you're gonna go there, you have to go there heavy. But just again, her art. She took the time to learn the language of the Dothraki. She took the time to learn the customs of the Dothraki. And I know we keep talking about the Dothraki. For those who are not aware, the Dothraki are again considered a savage culture.
Mm-hmm.
They are pretty much
like the Mongols, like a Mongolian horde almost. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I think that's probably what they were based off of.
Most likely, yeah, for sure.
And essentially, they only ride horseback. They don't believe in armor.
Mm-hmm.
Death is the only way to go, et cetera, et cetera. And what made that whole arc of her even being married off to them and having that be what wake her up, so to speak, the lore they have of the king's child being the horse or the
stallion that mounts the world.
Stallion that mounts the world. Wait, no, there's a more powerful word for horse.
Yeah.
The stallion that mounts the world. And it's like, that doesn't sound pleasant.
Yeah.
Even if I am
sounds like some tyranny is gonna happen. Right.
So, and then to realize again, okay, wait, so she is of the culture of dragons.
Mm-hmm.
A stallion to mount the world. Put those two things together, you inevitably have an apocalypse. So,
or a Pegasus.
You for sure have a Pegasus. You called that
right.
Pegasus, but a Pegasus that can bring destruction and terror.
Right.
And so from there, and finding out she's pregnant, and then they go forth, her brother kind of becomes a jerk.
Yeah, well, more so than he was in the first scene when he was feeling her up.
Because he was given an order by her, right? When he was feeling right, yeah.
Yeah.
So, what kills me about that is, it's like, bro, you have to have the moment to yourself to stop, pull yourself away, and say, hey, maybe I'm not the best person to send this message or to take this message, because she has more power in this situation than I do.
Yeah, well, and he was getting jealous about that too. And like he was realizing that she was integrating herself with the Dothraki. Like her and Drogo were starting to have like an actual relationship. She wasn't just like this servant bride anymore. Like she was becoming a Khaleesi. She was becoming a queen. And that was starting to threaten her brother, because he's like, well, I need Drogo to take his, Dothraki across the narrow sea so that I can win my throne back. Right. And if you guys are here having babies and, creating your own little empire, then that leaves no room for me anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he started getting real upset about that, and he started lashing out, and, Daenerys started to stand up for herself. Whereas before she was kind of taking a beating from him and being meek, she started to kind of be like, no, you can't do this anymore, And then finally, during one of the, evenings, he comes in kind of like drunk into the main like longhouse of the Dothraki, And he's like, huh?
Would that have been considered a baby shower where she was eating the heart? Because that was right after she ate the heart.
Yeah. Oh, yes. It was kind of after that. It was like a couple days after that.
Oh, it was a few days. Okay, it seemed like
it does. It did seem like it was right back to back. But yeah, that would have been kind of like the baby shower coronation of the new king that will be coming. Yeah, or she has to eat the horse heart. Yeah. But Viserys comes into the longhouse and he's starting to pop off because he's getting frustrated. Like, he doesn't have his army. He's basically, giving away his sister, which is his only chit to negotiate with. And he starts making threats, and he basically threatens to cut Daenerys's baby out of her, in front of Drogo. In front of the guy that literally like rips people's tongues out. Like,
just done that a day before.
Yeah, I know. This dude that literally just like murders people willy-nilly, and you're trying to pop your mouth off.
Right. In fact, he murdered what was considered his best friend and bodyguard.
Right. Yeah.
Disrespecting his wife.
That was after Viserys. But yeah. Either way, but then we get to one of my favorite deaths in the season for sure, and that is when Drogo finally has enough of Viserys and he has his men seize him. And Viserys was prior to that talking about how he wants to become the king, he needs a crown and all that stuff. So Drogo basically throws a pot on the fire and throws some gold in it, lets it melt down, and then pours the molten gold on his head.
So primal, but cool.
Yeah, a crown for a king.
That was awesome.
Very cool scene.
Never thought that through.
Yeah, very good. That was George R. R. Martin. Yeah, that comes from the book for sure.
But the execution, on the screen.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Very good. Yeah.
And so, as we're still on Daenerys, but we're talking about Drogo for a minute. Can we talk about why did all of you fans make me think Jason Momoa was going to be in this entire damn
Yeah, no, he's not. He's basically done by episode 9 or 10. Yeah, 9. But basically 9, he's a vegetable, right? Yeah, and Mercy kills him. Yeah.
Which was the Mercy kill, it was necessary. But
yeah.
Okay, so Khal Drogo he basically gets a wound from being a tough guy and pressing up against the scythe that the guy had against him before he rips the guy's tongue out.
Yes.
But
it was so fucked up because of that didn't seem necessary for him to die. Like it just, so it was either the Miri Mazdur lady like poisoned him.
Yes, that's what happened. I think the reason the guys were against it is because like, bro, we're warriors. You don't think we've had cuts and bruises before we know how to stuff?
Yeah. Just put some boiling water on it and should be fine. Yeah.
So once they allow the healer at that time is what we'll call her, the healer to mess with it, and she already warned it would infect and fester. And I'm like, nah, I don't trust it.
Yeah.
So I believe she infected him.
Yeah.
I believe that patch or whatever she put on him, that made it worse.
Although you do have to think that those sickles that they have probably disembowel people all the time and are disemboweling animals and are probably used to dig through stuff. So it could have human DNA on it. It could have, poop on it. Could have anything. I mean, so it's possible, like such a nasty blade would get you really infected pretty quickly.
Yeah, this is true. But again, I just didn't think she could help, or she.
No. I don't think that anything she did was a help. I think she probably made it worse for sure.
Correct. I think she could help, but that was not her intent. No, we know that was not her intent. And so, as it goes through, what got me was this. She's talking to Daenerys and she explains, hey, he's gone. He ain't gonna make it. She's still pregnant at the time. Brother's gone. All of that.
Yeah.
And there has to be a way. there is one way, but it's messy, and I don't suggest it.
Right.
Oh, well, if you know a way, it's blood magic. And everybody's like, hey, we don't know what
Don't
y'all
mess with that.
there.
Yeah.
But on this side, we don't do blood magic. Even she, the lady who clearly ain't happy with the situation she's in, is like, hey, listen, I don't know. You probably don't want me to mess
Probably
with
don't want to do that. Yeah.
There's a price. And you ain't gonna like the price. Oh, well, what's the price? Well, it ain't money. You know? Well, we'll do it. All right. So when she tells her, the souls are gonna dance here tonight, and no one else can be in it. Everybody else is already exiting except the guys who are holding the horse. They're in the angle where they can't be affected by anything, and she slices it, and the blood gets on Daenerys. I said immediately, I know how black magic works. Gee.
Yeah. You're the one that's gonna get the sacrifice from. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you thinking? Immediately everything goes in. Before she could even step foot all the way out, she's already delirious and losing it, and goes from like 4 weeks pregnant to in her
basically having the kid immediately. Yeah. Yeah.
And we know that how that turns out. So when she awakens from what happens to her, and Jorah has to kill the one of the Dothrakis because he's been a ruckus for a moment, and he's just kind of like, I'm tired of it. I don't like the fact that a woman keep telling me what to do.
Yeah, and if they had listened to him, none of this would have happened.
This is true. Had they listened to him, none of that would have happened. And not necessarily the woman part, but just not listening to, hey, she's not one of us. She's a slave. Why
don't let her help?
Touch my king.
Right.
That's true. That should be the most consistent thing in any kingdom, right? But so anyway, when Daenerys awakes and she's asking, well, what's going on with my husband? Well, he didn't make it. What you mean? Well, I mean, he made it, but where's my baby?
Not there either.
You should talk to the women. I should talk to the women. Give me my baby.
Yeah.
So when they told her baby was born, broken and twisted, with leathery skin and wings, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I think the only person who understood what that really meant was that witch doctor.
Yeah, maybe.
I think she was the only. I think she knew ahead of time. I think she could feel it. Like, she's a witch doctor. I think she knew more than she was giving. So when we go from there with the witch doctor, and they tell her about the baby, and then she goes to see her king, her husband, who is now a vegetable, and how that goes down. That was when the witch doctor tells her. That's what I was getting to. When the witch doctor tells her everything, like, I loved that scene. Like, it was heartbreaking, but it was real. You didn't save me. Before you saved me, I saw everyone I know's heads lined up and or being murdered in front of me.
Yeah. Yeah, she said that she was raped 3 times before Daenerys saved her.
Got there.
Right? Yeah.
So it's like, how do you...
You didn't do anything for me. Yeah.
Right. You gave me the opportunity to get revenge is what she did for
basically. Me. Yeah.
Excuse me. And so that's where from there with Daenerys, and now so we get to and I still have a couple of bonus, but now we get to what I feel is the culmination of the series. This is when everything is coming together and you're like, oh, that's what we're really here for. This is what it's really about. This is the direction we're really headed. We're not just out here swinging swords and clanking armor against each other, buddy.
Right.
We got some real things to get handled.
Oh yeah.
And, I loved the confidence that Daenerys had going into the birth of the dragons. Now, before I get to that, is there anything you would like to add or say, or any thoughts about Daenerys?
No, I think that we covered basically everything about her except for the final scene, of course.
Correct. Which I'm going to cover now.
Yes.
And so in the final scene with Daenerys, she is giving her husband a warrior's funeral. And the witch doctor is now her prisoner. What I like is I started doing some, I call it math. I started doing some mathematics, right? But I just really started putting some things together. Like, okay, wait. The moment I saw her tell them to put the dragons on top of Khal Drogo's body or around Khal Drogo's body, and I thought about it. I thought about the size of the pyre they were building. I thought about the mystical energy from a warrior of his strength, right? Then when she tells them to tie the witch, because at this point they're calling her a witch, tie the witch to the pyre, I'm like, wait, Daenerys is immune to, she's impervious to fire. And she's telling them she's going to lay on top of his body, and you're tying the witch. Just run with me here down this rabbit hole. This is where my mind went. There's a lot of energy that's going to come off of that witch. We're going to be putting that energy into the fire. Fires are like cauldrons, if you think about it from a mystical energy stance. Enter anything into the fire, they're all binded into one.
Yeah.
Again, the mystical energy from that warrior as well. Put all of that into her, who just gave up a baby. So she is literally an open vessel that is able to produce the energy and control these dragons already. Maybe can get the birth. My honest thought was, it's not going to get hot enough. She's going to fail.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Until the witch part. And that's when I was like, wait.
Yeah, there's certainly, it's not 100% confirmed, but the speculation is that there was some blood magic with that as well to bring the dragons about. So the sacrificing of the witch, the sacrificing of Drogo, her son's death, like all of that kind of mixes together with, there are 3 dragons. So you got to think the son, Drogo, and the witch kind of have like, 3 souls to give over to the dragons.
Same thing I thought. We're on the same page. When I tell you that is exactly how it came out in my head, I was like, wow, that's nuts. So at the end of the pyre burning, the ash settles and the sun is rising. Ser Jorah is approaching the smoldering pyre to see Daenerys bent down with the dragons on and around her. Her new children are born, and everyone bows to her as the Queen of the Dragons. That is where they close the series. However, that is not where we close this episode. So what was your honest thought, Nick, with the dragon scene? Like,
I mean, I was pretty excited about it. I'm happy, so it takes a while for the dragons to be worth anything. So they're going to be pretty small for a while.
I don't expect that till season 3. Honestly.
They're going to be pretty small for a while. So, but it does add a certain level of, it gives Daenerys a whole bunch of power, a lot of power, and it gives her also the ability to start making moves that she wants to make. So you're going to see how the dragons kind of influence her personality and how she kind of adopts that dragon mindset a little bit as well.
The power starts to, I wouldn't even say poison her, but it starts to convolute her way of thinking.
Yeah, certainly.
And let's be honest, give me a dragon. This ain't Rick and Morty, buddy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Well, unless it is, then don't give me a dragon. But I don't know. The whole dragons for me, as much as I was anticipating them and as excited as I was with all of the levels of, like I said, the hints at magical things repeatedly, at least the way I was catching them. Yeah. I didn't expect to see the dragon so early. Like I said, I expected that to fail and to be like this whole like, oh man, like how is she gonna do this? Like, what does she need? Kind of right? Yeah. But again, after thinking of everything, and like you said, the elements of blood magic involved in that, it made sense. I didn't think of the sun. When you brought up the sun just now, it did make me think like, right, 3 souls, 3 dragons. Yeah. Like, dang, that actually is perfect.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense. There's nothing like definitive about that, but it does kind of like have a symbolic sort of meaning for sure.
Sure. Are there any notable characters for you that are not say like main roster, like that we didn't really cover, but just
yeah, I like Serial Pharrell. I like the water dancing teacher. I like Let's see who else. I like I like Liza Aaron. She's really crazy.
Aaron.
The Catelyn's sister, the one
Oh
that
yeah.
rules the Eyrie. Yeah, yeah. And she's got her like 11-year-old son breastfeeding. Yeah.
You should stop that at least. At
Yeah.
Read a book. Read the room.
Right.
How about that?
Right. She's a pretty crazy one. Yeah, there's some great little, like ancillary characters. I like the Hound. I like the Mountain.
I think the Hound and Mountain are two of them. Their story is so cool. I am very interested to see how they both move.
Mm-hmm.
But I just cut you off, and I apologize.
No worries. Yeah, no, I agree. But yeah, no, I think that's pretty much. I think that's a pretty good summary of season 1. I don't think we missed a whole lot. So
right.
Yeah.
And so for me, I have a couple of characters I liked. For sure, the Mountain and the Hound.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I like Grandmaster Pycelle.
Oh yeah.
Pycelle is goofy.
Yeah, he is pretty goofy.
It up early, like before. I don't remember if that was season 1 or season 2. Honestly, the moment he has, and honestly, whether this is season 1 or season 2, it's just a funny moment, and it's right either at the end of season 1 or right at the beginning of season 2.
Yeah,
where he has this whole discussion with the prostitute, and he yes, and
yeah, he's being like all doddering and trying to pretend he's frail. Yeah,
I'll walk you out, and she's no. As soon as that door closed, he hook, and he's up, and he's shaking it off, and he's stretching. I'm like, yo.
Oh yeah. He's putting on an act for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remembered like everything about him all the way through, and it's like, he's real dangerous. And he's like in his 60s.
Yeah.
Like, he's super dangerous.
For sure.
Super dangerous. So he was one of my favorite characters for that. I thought the eunuch was interesting. What is his name?
Varys.
Varys. I thought he was very interesting. I'm not going to say he was like so much of a favorite character, but he's interesting because I think there's so much more to his character. I'm just not sure if and or when it will come. But I think that character has a lot of potential. More potential even than Littlefinger, because we got a lot on Littlefinger early. Right. But I feel like he has more potential than Littlefinger. And then I'll round my third one out with the Mountain and the Hound for sure. Like I said, that story on them as boys, as kids, I'm waiting to see that play out.
Oh yeah.
I know that's gonna play out.
That's an ancient rivalry right there.
And do you think that the Mountain sword is Valerian still as well? Because that sword is beautiful.
I don't think so.
His sword definitely looks like an executioner's sword. It doesn't look like
it's a bastard sword, so it's very large. It's kind of like Ned Stark's sword. It's like a very large sword, two-handed sort of thing. Yeah,
right. It's like those are guys that's coming to chop down some things.
Oh yeah, like horses' heads.
Right. Oh God, that was amazing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for the animal lovers. I love horses too, but if you seen, jeez.
Yeah, well, thankfully it was all fake. So
yeah, thankfully, because I really wouldn't be able to sit easy with myself enjoying that scene and thinking, and then when it was real, then go down to the tables. Hey, I want to
no. Well, yeah. So, do you have any other remarks before we wrap up? I think we got to a lot of the stuff, but I'm sure there's just so much that we could probably talk about.
Listen, I know we could even do this whole season, do a whole nother episode on this season, but I think we're good on covering a lot of the main things. I know we had a couple of things we wanted to lend and give to the audience as well, as far as I know we wanted to do some top deaths and some of our favorite lines from here. Yeah. And also for those watching, again, if you have never seen it, or even those who have seen it, you can go back with all of the information we just gave you, all the few things we're going to give you right after this, and you will still enjoy it, and you'll still see a lot of things that we did not mention because we would be sitting here for the full 10 hours that we watched.
Yeah, for sure.
So what I noted was there were a total of 28 deaths, on-screen deaths at least. Yeah, in season 1, 28 deaths.
Nice.
And what were your top 3?
I think we're probably going to have similar ones. I mean, I got to say Viserys for sure.
Yeah,
one of mine. Yeah. Sure. having the gold melted on his head until he died was pretty cool.
Right.
I would say the other ones. I mean, Ned Stark. Obviously, that's a big one.
Now, is
And
that
then
favorite for you, or is that just big in the moment?
yeah, it's not necessarily a favorite because nothing was really happening with that. But I would say, yeah, it's definitely Viserys is one of the most brutal ones. Then you could say like the guy that got his tongue ripped out was a pretty good
That
one.
was pretty good. Yeah, that was pretty.
But I honestly can't remember too many of the deaths in season 1.
It's 28.
I know there's 28, and I can only remember like 2 or 3 of them. So
it happened really quick.
Go ahead.
So for me, of course, Viserys Targaryen. Like, if you don't think the coolest death in the season 1 was a guy getting melted gold poured on his head, so a crown of gold fit for a king. Oh, come on, you shouldn't be watching this show or listening to us at that point.
Yeah, very poetic.
For me, the next was Sir Hugh, the guy killed by the mountain in the jousting tournament.
Oh yeah.
Just the way the splintering of the javelin, or what it was?
Yeah, javelin.
Yeah, just the splintering of it and straight into his throat. It was like,
yeah, that's messed up. Real rough.
It was crazy. And then I honestly, so I was split on these two, so I honestly had to give 4. The deserter, I think that was Willis or William.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, one of the two, I believe. But so the deserter, I thought that was one of my favorites, not just impactful, but one of my favorites. All of these are favorites for me. I tried to go favorites more than impactful. I think they were all somewhat impactful, except for the kid that Arya killed, which I like that she got her first kill.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So for me, it was either the deserter, because that really was like, again, with the Ned thing. It was like that moment where you're like, come on, Ned, I want to be on your side, Ned, but you don't know how things work clearly.
Yeah.
Like, you're really not here. You're not here for anything except, rules are rules.
Following orders.
He just told you an ancient monster is back, and you're like, rules are rules.
Yeah, of course.
So that was big for me. And then Serial Pharrell, because he did not die on screen.
No.
But we know inevitably what happened. And what better way to die than defeating a bunch of soldiers with a wooden sword, and then have to face the head of all of them while he has his master sword. Like,
what do you say to the god of death? Yeah, not today. Yep,
exactly. So I would say those are my top 4. I would have to give them my top 4.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, those are good. Those are good. And, what about lines or scenes?
I had a few lines. Now, scenes, I didn't do scenes because I realized, and I'm gonna be honest, I realized I liked almost every scene. I can't name a scene I didn't like.
Gotcha.
I can't name. That's what I actually started trying to do. Like, okay, was there a scene I didn't care for? No, not really. Even those scenes I didn't care for were important to some level.
Right.
So I have a bunch of lines though. So I just added a few more lines than 3. So some of these are gonna have accents, and I'm gonna remember who said them. Everyone not us is the enemy.
Oh, it's Cersei.
Really,
yeah.
Cersei?
Yeah.
Really, everyone.
That's her. That's her whole thing. Yeah.
Right. He's no dragon. Fire cannot kill a dragon. Right, Daenerys. That was a good one. And you're right.
Yeah, it's true.
Never forget what you are. Wear it like armor. Good job,
That's
Tyrion.
Right, Tyrion.
Good job, Tyrion. A mind needs books like a sword needs a whet stone. We said it like 5 times at least through this episode.
Yeah. Another great line.
There is only one thing we tell death.
Not today.
Sticking with the pointy end, Jon Snow. Oh, I'm sorry.
I like that one.
We only tell death one thing, not today. That's Serial Pharrell.
Yes.
Sticking with the pointy end, Jon Snow. When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die.
Oh yeah.
Cersei Lannister.
Cersei right there.
Hands down, one of the best one of the best lines. It set the tone for the entire rest of this series. Like, that's how you play the game. She's not lying.
Oh yeah.
Hardcore facts.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And Jamie had a few lines, but I had to take this one. The king shits and the hand wipes.
Oh yeah.
It's like, hey, know what your job is, dude. He's gonna be messing up a lot of stuff, and your job's to clean it. My job is to sit here and make sure nobody try to kill him while he's messing stuff up.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I'll tell you my favorite line, and I just thought about it. It's when Robert Baratheon smacks Cersei, and she's like, "I shall wear it like a badge of honor."
Oh,
and his response is so cold. He's like, "Wear it in silence, or I'll honor you again."
And I'm gonna be so honest.
That's so cold, man.
It happened. I was like, "Yo, it's 2021. Can I appreciate that?"
Right.
I was like, because I'm like, it's the writing that I'm appreciating. Not
yeah.
He just disrespected his wife.
No. It's just the craziness of that sort of like character for sure.
Yeah. Because what got me was she walks out and he turns to Ned. I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah.
If you do that, why are we having this conversation?
Right.
So so those are my lines and deaths. Do you have any more lines other than the one?
No, that's it for me. Yeah, I think you covered all the other good ones too, so I think we're good.
For sure. A lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we're not going to leave out our favorite part. I know you don't think we're leaving out our favorite part. We're doing ratings.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
Ratings.
Okay.
So I'm honest. I told myself I was not going to rate this until we officially hit the button to go live this evening. So if anyone was watching and you saw me or you heard me scribbling something down, that was me doing my rating. Because I wanted to give myself time to really think about how I felt.
Yeah.
It gets a 5 of 5 for me.
Nice. Yeah, I would have to say, and especially since I've seen the entire series, season 1 is definitely a 5. You know what? I'm gonna say 4.5 because there are seasons that do get better in my opinion, but season 1 is
your next half, huh?
Yeah. So yeah, I got to take 1.5 off just because I know that there's a season coming up that I like a lot better. So, but season 1 is one of the best for sure. And actually, to that effect, we had a comment here from Devontae Griffin who says the first few seasons were litty, which is very true. The first 4 seasons are probably the strongest for sure. So I look forward to recapping season 2, man. That's going to be a lot of fun. So season 1 gets a 9.5 out of 10, I think, and I think that that's pretty appropriate. It is.
I agree.
It is pretty fantastic, and if you haven't seen it, just go ahead and watch it. You'll once you get over the fact that you were wrong about it for the last 10 years, you're gonna enjoy it. So
it only took me 40 minutes to get past that, guys. So
yeah. Well, cool, man. Do you got any final comments you want to say before we wrap up?
I am honestly a little disappointed in myself. I didn't think I would be so excited to move forward in the series. Like I said, I expected to get through episode 1 and be like, I'll pick this up another day.
Right.
In 3 days, maybe 4 days, which is a very rare thing for me, I was done with the season. So my only take, because I don't want to put too much in front of me and have to eat my words later, is I am interested. I'm not even going to say excited. I am interested to know how the next few seasons are going to affect me after getting through this season.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I can't wait because, like each season that we do, you're just going to be like, what, because there's a lot of things that you said in this episode where I'm like, oh my God, if I could only tell you, but I refuse to spoil any of it. So I want to make sure that you are as genuinely surprised as much as possible. So
for sure.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I know, I know you remember the suggestion. We got one suggestion that I should watch some episodes with a Twitch stream. So
yeah.
I am letting you guys in the audience know now. If I decide to do that,
I think it's a good call. Yeah.
I will definitely post it to our page before I decide to do it. This way, you guys can watch it with me.
Yeah, you can do a live reaction. That would be great.
Exactly.
For sure. Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much, you guys, for listening. We saw some of you guys pop in periodically throughout this. We did a pretty long haul, 2.5 hours, man. That was pretty good.
Nice. Yeah.
We did pretty darn good. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We will be back next week, whether it is for season 2 or for a different movie entirely. We don't know yet, but we'll let you guys know. We'll find out. We'll work it out. I want to make sure that Keilyn's got enough time to watch the second season. So, so thank you guys so much for listening. We really appreciate you. Give us a shout out, give us some comments, some feedback. What did you guys think about season 1? What were your favorite deaths? What were your favorite scenes in season 1? We would love to know. We're always happy to respond to you guys whenever you interact with us, and we really appreciate that. Please feel free to check out Keilyn's podcast, If Numbers Could Talk, on Tuesday nights at 6 p.m. He's got that figurehead shirt representing for you guys.
Hey, shout out to the designer of the figurehead shirt.
Hey, there, my pleasure, man. Always. If you guys are interested in Exofathom, we do that Monday and Friday at 8 p.m. Otherwise, we will catch you on the next Screen Time Continuum. And thank you guys so much. And thank you to Keilyn. And good night, you guys. Have a good one.